Mike, turn your games down.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another year in gaming of Games My Mom Found. I am Mike Albertin, and who's counting in 2002 with me tonight?
It's your favorite king of useless knowledge, Joseph Butler, but please call me Joe.
Hey, this is Karu Seta on Twitch and TikTok and Instagram and other things. You can call me Kerry.
And this is Vincent Goodwin from the Some of My Friends Read podcast. I just blew my own podcast. From Some of My Friends Read Comics podcast. I blew my own name. Yeah, there we go.
Okay. And we are all here gathered to talk about a year that I've been threatening to talk about for a long time on this show. The year in gaming in 2002. A year I don't like.
Yeah, I was going through some of the games. It was an okay year.
It's not that the games were bad. It's that 2002, that era. So for those that don't know, if you're too young, PS2, Xbox, Game Boy Advance, GameCube, and games had a certain... I feel like if this was a time very much where a game was too short, it would get a lower review score for being too short.
Yes.
And...
because we were all young at the time, and we didn't get nearly as many games.
And we didn't know any better.
Also, yeah. I think this was the time where Game Informer 2 was like, hey, Game Informer, if we throw a bunch of money at you, will you put our really shitty game on your cover? And they're like, yeah.
And I was listening to your Sonic Adventure 2 battle episode, and Mike, while I was prepping for this, and you went off on 2002, like boss design. Just like being like between this and Ratchet and Clank 1, which I know you've covered, which is a great game from 2002 that just has like the most bullshit final boss fight. And then Kerry, I think you were on the Bounty Hunter episode, which is also from 2002. Similar feel and year. And Mike, I think you probably have already come out with your Star Fox Adventures episode.
Yeah, it's already out.
Again,
at this point.
2002.
Well, first game on 2002. That was peak gaming for me. I was a sophomore in college. It was just like living in the dorms, playing video games nonstop. That was the year for me.
So what about you, Joe? What do you remember of 2002?
I was 8.
Oh,
but I was a very poor child. But my very close cousin, who I consider my sister, so if I refer to her as my sister, I apologize. But I love her very much. She was more, well off than I was, so I had to sit there and watch her play on the GameCube and everything. So I have most memories of most of the stuff in here.
Okay. I remember more of the stuff than I thought I would as I'm scrolling through the list of 2002 stuff. I don't remember what I would have played in 2002. I don't even remember. I didn't do the math, figure out like how old. Wait, I would be 15 at the time. So I was high school.
Oh, am I the oldest one here then?
Yeah, I was.
Okay.
I was 17 in 2002. I was working for a relatively large Nintendo site. I wasn't getting paid, but this was the year I started getting free video games. My first video game that I ever got was Castlevania Harmony of Dissonance, which blew my mind.
Good start too.
I was in the PR materials for it, like as a quote from me, because I wrote a preview for it. I called it "One Step Closer to Castlevania Perfection," and there were talks to put me like in the ad campaign. And I'm like, I'm 17. This is amazing.
That is awesome.
I got Castlevania games, and I did get invited to go play Wind Waker at Nintendo offices. And I was like, yeah, this will be fine. I mean, it's during my finals, but I'll just talk to my teachers. It'll be okay. They'll definitely love it. Like sending a 17-year-old on his own on a plane to Seattle and stay in a hotel room. I don't know what I was thinking, but I was like, yeah, this will be fine. But one of my teachers was like, no, you can't do this. And I was like, I never even asked my parents. They didn't find out. I was like, yeah, my parents will be cool with this. So I missed playing Wind Waker at Nintendo offices before it came out. That was my year.
I mean, I don't blame you. If 17-year-old Mike did, I think, jumped on a train and went to Minnesota. I live in Wisconsin. It wasn't that far, but I mean, my parents knew about it. They helped me get the tickets, but still, like, I can see, especially to go play a freaking Zelda game before it came out in that era. Oh yeah, no question,
absolutely. It's a great time.
So that's a really pretty decent segue too. So Wind Waker, did y'all actually like Wind Waker?
It's my second favorite Zelda game. Zelda's my favorite series of games, and Wind Waker is right behind Breath of the Wild for me.
Now, that's not what I mean. I'm talking about like the big reveal. Like because I remember back then, X Play was a big thing when I was a kid. I had super cable, so I was able to watch G4. And well, it's on the bigger channels. And I just remember, everyone just being butthurt.
Yeah. I mean, Zelda with a C, we weren't happy about. At least my Nintendo site was not happy about it. This is also like we were 17 and like, kid things are dumb. And PlayStation and like, they were all doing that kind of advertising model of like, we're grown-up games. We're not dumb kiddie games like Nintendo. And so like, I was at least butthurt, and it's stupid because Wind Waker's a pretty good game. But like, I can look at my review even at the time, and it's like, once you get past the graphics, or like, this is a good Zelda game, in spite of the graphics, or like, this would be great for another game, but not Zelda. This is all 17, 18-year-old me. I don't entirely agree with it.
Yeah, and I'm looking, and it got delayed in America till March of 2003. So, but I remember it was supposed to come out in the fall of 2002, and we were all. It was very much that it was divided with the hardcore people being like, no, this is going to be great, and then you had the other people being like, no, this is garbage. We're supposed to get HD graphics. We weren't calling it HD yet, I don't think, but
no, we weren't.
I remember that because we're very much in a new era of the console wars where PS2 is eating Nintendo's lunch and comes out a year before the PS2 and before the GameCube and the Xbox, and then everything is about pushing graphics. It's all about pushing graphics to the limit. And then Nintendo comes out with this game that is actually a graphics powerhouse. It's just a different art style, and it looks kiddie. And yeah, I remember being on the I remember being on the side of being disappointed in the way it looked at first, and then playing it and thinking it was amazing. So it was kind of, you had to play it to believe it. Kind of.
I vaguely remember getting it around the time it came out, probably whatever the holiday would have been. I would have asked for it, or I would have gotten it around that time. But I don't remember if I didn't like it. Like, I remember I played it. I didn't like the art style. I didn't like the game, and I fell off it. And it wasn't until I think probably my last year of high school, so 2006, when or 2005, I went back and beat the game and really liked it. And I have not played it since.
Well, I pre-ordered it, so I got it the day it came out. I pre-ordered it when it was supposed to come out in November, and then it got delayed until the following spring or whatever. And I played it, and I also fell off it, though. I loved it, but then I hit like a wall with it because where you have to map the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and you're going around and you're looking for those fish, and I'm playing it on a 16-inch or 17-inch CRT, and I cannot see the freaking fish to save my life. And I was like, oh, you know what? Forget this. I'm going to play Enter the Matrix.
Oh God,
whatever instead. I remember specifically like playing, Enter the Matrix instead of Wind Waker, and this is what games are supposed to be like.
For anyone that got mad at us, yes, Wind Waker came out in March 2003 of America, but 2002 in Japan, so we can talk about it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because I have the date for Wind Waker. Freaking Wikipedia told me it was December 13th.
Yeah,
that's for Japan.
Man. Yeah, I had that,
and I'm good with that. Like, that's close enough.
But it was supposed to come out in the fall of 2002. I remember specifically, I was still living in the dorms when it was supposed to come out, and then I had just gotten my new apartment right after it came out. So like, I moved into my new apartment like a month after it actually came out, or like a month and a half.
And that date probably tracks, because the time I was invited to Nintendo of America was mid-December. So it would have been probably, so spoilers, if anybody bothered to get the Japanese version, would have already been out in the world and out in the internet. So they felt pretty comfortable just letting people play the English version.
Yeah.
In Nintendo offices. Because I want to say like the dates were like December 17th, like, because it was finals time. I did have a friend that did, or actually a coworker, I guess he was on the site. He did buy Wind Waker, and he said it's really wild playing a game in a language you don't know and just trying to figure out like Zelda clues. Like, yeah. And like, he managed to beat Wind Waker not speaking the language at all, just by like, just kind of figuring out video games and being good at video games, which kind of sounds maddening, because like that whole Triforce hunt sounds impossible without.
Yeah, I don't know how you would even know what you're supposed to do to get the Triforces without being told.
Trial and error and being a kid.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, like,
I take these maps. I guess I'll go see what they are. Yeah,
that makes sense. Time was, back then, like, all we had was time when you're younger.
Yeah, man, that's what I was saying. Like, I was in college, but I was a liberal arts major. I was a history English double major. I had nothing but time.
Yeah.
My friends were all engineering majors because I went to an engineering college, and I was just like playing video games all the time. That was all I was doing.
That sounds wonderful, though.
Yeah, it's a wonderful time.
I can't remember 2002 what I was doing. I wasn't working yet. I know that.
Yeah. So that maturity angle, though, is like a big thing, though, especially in the Nintendo camp. And I was very much part of that. Like, Nintendo was making a hard play for like grown-up games, not just with graphics, but like we got Resident Evil, the remake, and Resident Evil 0 that year.
Oh, yeah. Well, we could talk about those.
Yes.
Yeah.
That Resident Evil remake is that, and
stunning.
Resident Evil 4. Those are the only two Resident Evil games I've ever enjoyed. Like, I hated the original Resident Evil on PlayStation. I thought it was terrible. I'm like, how can anyone like this with these like isometric tank controls. Freaking, you can't shoot. And then I played that remake, and man, that was stunning.
That remake, I bought it at release, I think, or I got it very early around there. I don't know why. I terrified of Resident Evil games then, and I still have. I only came across my fear, overcame it recently. Like I bought that game, I played it, and I remember I bought the guide for it, and I was terrified just sitting there trying to play it. But one of the most vivid memories I have is my first girlfriend at the time. She came over and I showed her Resident Evil, and I showed her the part where when you go in jail and you go to the bathtub and then the guy tries to grab her and she just crushes his head. What that Mike was thinking, I don't know, but that's what I remember showing my first.
This will attract the women. This is what they like.
It wasn't even like we were friends, but yeah, I was stupid, and I'm like, I don't. It wasn't my first girlfriend, but I always remember that's always just stuck with me. But no, that game is amazing.
I remember we didn't buy it. I didn't buy that game until many years later, but we rented it when I was home for Christmas break, I think. And we were at my friend's house, at his parents' house, and they had a snake like in a terrarium right next to the TV, and it had like a black light in there, and we were playing with the lights off, and so the only light in the room is from the CRT and then the black light next to it. And we're creeping through this house, and that snake all of a sudden twitched, and man, about pissed my pants. So that's my memory for this game.
I don't know what small child Nintendo sacrificed to get all these great, because it's always remember it's Resident Evil 4, and Killer 7, and it's you don't expect these things from this what Nintendo always being considered a baby console game. But I also don't understand why, with how I'm pretty sure this sold well. I don't understand why Capcom didn't try pushing for the other remakes. I'm surprised they didn't remake 2 and 3 a year after this, they're doing now.
Yeah.
They were ported. I think they were based off of the Dreamcast ports, I want to say. They were definitely on the GameCube, but not fancy. And all of them got on there. Code Veronica, 2 and 3.
Yes.
That all that was there at the time? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't do these photo, I remember feeling this is photo realistic. It felt like, and they didn't.
Yeah, I do too. I'm sure it was my background, my desktop on my computer. Because they looked beautiful. I mean, it's an absolute cheat because it's just like the PS1. It's just a JPEG with 2 3D models on top of it. That's how they really cheat.
It's the most visually. I mean, I think it's the most visually stunning game on the GameCube, probably.
Mm-hmm.
That and Wind Waker, but in a completely different way.
I also have never played Zero. I own Zero. I bought Zero not this year, but when I got my first job, and I still have yet to ever play Zero.
That's okay. Zero's a really not good game. It's one of the things where it's it always happens with Capcom. It's we had such a great idea for remake. Let's take out half the stuff in Resident Evil Remake and just not put it and just make up just dog shit ideas. There's no box system. Everything you find you can leave on the floor, which I guess saves you from throwing away stuff, but it still doesn't make sense.
That seems dumb.
Yeah, the co-op system is dumb. Billy's the big strong man, so he can only push things. And since Rebecca's the medic for stars, she's the only one who can mix herbs. It's really weird how they're and it's one of the things where it's Capcom and Nintendo and we can't make the same game twice. Just mix up some stuff. Just throw some ideas.
Mega Man 1 through 6, yeah.
Yeah, just throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks. If they don't like it, we just won't do it again. And of course, it's always my worst part. The final boss is atrocious for Zero, and they never bring sweet Billy Cohen back ever again.
Well, plus Zero doesn't even really fit in the storyline exactly.
Yeah, it does. So in the game, in the way the story does, it takes place. I don't know, the 12 hours before one starts.
Yeah, but even then, she, after everything she went through, you think there'd be some kind of line at some point they would have edited in and be man, I just had a fucking terrible night, Chris. Something
Yeah, because Zero, I have to imagine was in development before the remake, even though it came out afterwards. Because Zero was a 64 game at first.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. You can look up Resident Evil 64. Resident Evil 0 Nintendo 64. And this was also the year where a lot of Nintendo 64 games found their way over. Again, the aforementioned Star Fox Adventures. Go check out Games My Mom Found number one. And also Eternal Darkness, the game I bought my GameCube for.
I was going to mention Eternal Darkness. Yeah.
That's this year?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, That's a good game.
Yeah, Kerry, I know you're from Texas also. In like July '02, do you remember like a massive flood? We definitely had it in San Antonio, and I'd bought my GameCube like a day before the giant flood. So I just got to play Eternal Darkness like in like gloomy weather for like a week. It was amazing.
I don't remember the 2002 flood. No, I lived in Southeast Texas, like Houston area.
Mm-hmm. So. Which floods all the time and the water doesn't go in.
Yeah, so it's like we've had so many floods. It's like like I spent $10,000 putting a drainage system in my backyard this fall because of how much we flood here. So
But yeah, Eternal Darkness was like that was again like the Nintendo's mature, and that's the game that got me to bite. Despite I worked for a Nintendo site and didn't buy a GameCube until like 7 months after it came out. And it was for Eternal Darkness, which was such a cool game and a cool setup. I hated it at the time, because I felt it was lazy. But what it is you go, you play as different characters throughout history with some like Cthulhu, like scary monster, but it reuses levels throughout, which I hated at the time because I was like, they're just using maps. There's only 3 maps in this whole game. This is stupid. They're cheap. But like looking back at it and playing it now in like a whole, you're like, oh, this is what this like church looked like when it was being built. And then this was when it was in use. And then this is when it got converted to a field hospital in World War I. Like, this is really cool. Like it was a really cool design. And at the end of every level, your main character gets killed by the Cthulhu monster. It's a lot of fun.
There's like 2 people who survive.
Yeah.
If you count living in a mental asylum your entire life surviving.
It's episode 90 for us, by the way, when we covered that.
Oh, really?
But,
you did cover it already?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's one of the few games that really, really fucked with me when I played it recently. I played it back in when I just bought a house. So I set up my little studio area in the basement. There's not that much furniture in. There's boxes, and I'm sitting in the dark, and I haven't lived in a house in years. I'm used to apartments and all, and I was playing that game, and I remember just being like freaked out. Like I grabbed the dog and had the dog like, you're sleeping with me. Like I don't feel like you're not running around the house. Like you're here. I need to know if something tries to kill me. I'm okay. Like I was just all creeped out.
The pretense of somebody buying a new house and it's spooky is not a good time to buy a new house. My wife did that with Amityville Horror, like the night we moved into our new house. And I'm like, this is the house. It's a movie about a house where the dad goes crazy and murders the whole family because the house is evil. Like, don't do this to me on night.
No, it was Eternal Darkness, and then shortly after that, I played Resident Evil 2 Remake.
Oh, the new one? Yeah, that one was Spookiesville. That one scared me.
Yeah,
I played that in the dark.
I got Resident Evil 2 Remake, but I'm going to wait to play it till I mod in like Thomas the Tank Engine or something.
So Eternal Darkness is a really underrated title that not enough people know about or talk about or have anything that like it's such a good game.
Yeah, it makes a lot of like hidden gems kind of lists for the GameCube. It's one I never have played. I've watched people play it, but I've never played it myself.
Well, it's also almost impossible to get. I actually just found out less than 3 minutes ago. I thought I didn't have a copy of it. I looked over my shelf and I have a copy of it. I'm like, oh, wow. I didn't know I owned it still.
Oh, is it expensive?
Yeah. It's also never got re-released and never will get re-released. It's one of those games where if you want to play it, you kind of have to emulate it because it's just...
acquire it, yeah.
Yeah, it's just one of those that they're not... Like, right now, buy it now, pre-own, $120 for complete in box.
That's wild to me because I remember selling for like $6.99 at Blockbuster.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's one because it won't be re-released. Like, Nintendo, I mean, plus that company, was it Silicon Knights? Yeah, Silicon Knights.
And Dennis Dyack, brilliant huckster, super accessible to sites like ours. Also, he was really good for like marketing and hyping up his games. He's a bit of a huckster, promised things that didn't exist, but got sued into oblivion, and that's why the game doesn't exist or the company doesn't exist anymore. But
too human.
What are you gonna do?
Because he fought a stupid fight, didn't win.
And siphoned off all the money for X-Men Destiny that he was supposed to be using for that and put it in Eternal Darkness 2. And Skeleton Crew, an X-Men game licensed by Activision. So got in trouble for that too.
The one thing I like about Eternal Darkness 2, which is a really good game as well, is the combat systems really well. And I really wish I could have seen that a lot more in games of that era, especially horror games, because it really does melee weapons for enemies really, really well. And I don't understand why no one in this day and age has rebought that IP, done a RE2 remake of it, and then like maybe over the shoulder like kind of combat like that, and then made a sequel.
Right, because the combat was it was kind of structured a lot like Resident Evil, where it had like dynamic frame angles, but you would like hold like the L button, and then you could aim at specific like body parts or limbs with both your gun or your melee weapon, so it would like highlight like their bicep or their torso, and then you could attack it which you could specifically cut off hands. Because I remember I played Resident Evil Remake after Eternal Darkness, and I was like, how the hell am I supposed to aim here? Like, spatially, I just could not figure it out. And Eternal Darkness made that really easy. Like, it game-eat it, but yeah, absolutely, that combat system. I don't feel like that exists in any other game, like that amount of like highlighting.
No.
There's a really weird game that came out in 2002 that I want to mention that I bought randomly at GameStop or EB Games at the time because it was cheap. I'm assuming none of you guys have heard of it, called Duel Hearts.
No.
Okay. It's an Atlas game, but it looks like a Zelda clone. I mean, like, you push blocks, the guy has spiky hair, and he has hearts for his health or something. I haven't played it in a long time, but I remember like this. I just remember thinking this is a Zelda clone, and I have been meaning to replay it someday, but I just can't make myself put it on the show. I won't find anyone probably to play it with me.
I'll play it with you.
Okay, but yeah, so it's a really strange game called Duel Hearts that came out that time that I can't even describe it other than it looks like a Zelda clone with a talking dog, and I'm just like, what the fuck is this? And I've never beaten it.
No, talking dogs are cool.
It's a strange game. Like, look it up. Like, anyone listening, you're like, what the hell? I mean, maybe somebody out there's like, I remember that game, but you have crystals for health, and it looked like just like heart containers to me, and it was just had a very Zelda vibe to it, from what I remember.
It's Duel Hearts, not duel like a stabbing duel, but now I just
DUAL.
Yeah, I just googled Duel Heroes, which is an N64 game. That's not the same thing.
But yeah, it's just one of those strange games that I didn't realize.
Yeah, it looks interesting. I feel like it could go either way, like Atlas in 3D at that time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Well, with that, I would like to segue into probably one of my favorite games of all time, because there's a funny story about that I remember. Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah.
Because I remember, but I'm going to go skip to that weird part. I remember back when we bought it and we beat it, me and my cousin went to GameStop, and of course we'd always be like, that was a really good game. I wonder if there's anything like that. And there was like Duel Hearts, and then I think like Shadow Hearts, and it's like, I don't think it has anything to do with that, so we're not going to get it. But Kingdom Hearts holds a very special place in my heart, ironically. Only because, being a kid back then and like the commercials come on and you just see this big anime game. And of course, as a kid in that day and age, anime was always on Cartoon Network. When you came home from school, you had Dragon Ball Z and all this other crap. And you see this game that has Disney characters that looks like Final Fantasy. And you're like, I need to play this now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember. So it came out it's like spring 2002, maybe?
I have the date, so hold on, give me a second.
But I remember I was living in the dorms, and I lived in a co-ed dorm where the first and third floor were girls and the second and fourth floor were guys. And on the second floor, some of my older friends that I became like real good friends with, it was 2 people per room. And what they had done is 4 of them were living in one room.
Okay.
And then they turned the other empty room into a hangout lounge for the dorm. And so we had like recliners in there. We had like 4 TVs, a couple of computers, and we had video game systems set up. And that was where, and one of the guys had a PS2. And so we'd play a lot of PS2 stuff there. I keep my GameCube in there, and we play GameCube stuff in there, But then on the 4th floor was more of the like alpha male nerd types, I guess you could say. And they had their own that they would not kind of mingle with us. And they were up there playing, like, what is it with Dante, Devil May Cry and that kind of stuff. I would go up there occasionally when no one was down in the other room and just watch them play. And they were not like they would like let you stand there and watch them, but they're not offering to like let you in. And I came up one time and they're playing this game, and I'm like, is that Donald Duck? What the hell is this? I never heard of this. And I sat there for maybe 3 hours watching them play Kingdom Hearts. And that was how I found out about Kingdom Hearts. I just remember that so distinctly. I remember them going to the Coliseum and Cloud showing up and all that.
It was March 28th.
Yeah. So it was like, so it was my last semester in the dorms before like that May, my best friend and I got an apartment. But, no, 2003. No, this is my second semester in the dorms. No, I saw it another year in the dorms. But yeah, anyway. So yeah, I just remember watching. So I didn't play a Kingdom Hearts game again until I was engaged to my wife, like 2007. And we're living together, about to get married. And for Christmas, she gets me, I want to say Kingdom Hearts 2 for the PS2. And so that's my actual only Kingdom Hearts game I've actually played is Kingdom Hearts 2. But I've watched a lot of Kingdom Hearts 1.
I actually the whole reason I got a PS2 was for Kingdom Hearts because I was a big Squaresoft guy. Like I still love Squaresoft. Square Enix, not as much, but I loved Squaresoft back in the day.
Yeah.
And I was so excited to have Final Fantasy characters in this game that I had to play it. And yeah, that was the whole reason I had my mom buy me a PS2 at the time, was to get me Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, I was a Nintendo fanboy, and so I was there when Squaresoft betrayed us all and went to Sony, which is a whole other mess.
But
So
hey, some great games came out of that, though.
Yeah, but I didn't have a PlayStation or anything, so I missed Final Fantasy 7, Final Fantasy 8. I got them on PC when they ported them like a year later.
With those giant cardboard boxes, yeah.
Yeah, I had Final Fantasy 7 and 8 on PC, and I played them that way. But no FF9 port, and so our first like SquareSoft coming back to Nintendo was Crystal Chronicles.
Yeah, and that was
that game.
That was like Spring 04, and I'd never, I'd only heard of Square because I didn't get into RPGs until like Pokemon, and so I was like, oh no, like is this what everybody likes? Like this is terrible. Crystal Chronicles is like a 4, so we're a few years off, but
yeah, I was such a big Square fan because like Chrono Trigger is like my favorite video game ever. Final Fantasy 6, I was really big into all that stuff, but then I was away from them, and then so when Kingdom Hearts came, I'm like Squaresoft and Disney. Well, that's weird, but I didn't have any affection for Disney like whatsoever. I was 19 and too cool for school to be like playing a game with Donald Duck and Goofy. So
it was better than you think it would be.
That's funny because that's exactly what I wanted, and I was like, because I have a YouTube channel that was a game that's all about like weird uses of IP, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's Donald and Goofy inside of the Lion King. This is gonna be ridiculous and stupid, and I love it. And then there was all this Square shit, and then I was like, what the fuck is this? I hate this. I don't like. I was the opposite. I didn't want any of the Final Fantasy.
There are two types of Kingdom Hearts fans: the ones that are there for the Square and the ones that are there for the Disney.
Yeah, and neither of them are happy.
Yeah. Neither of them are happy.
I haven't replayed Kingdom Hearts since I played it on PS2. I've never went back to it yet. I'm going back to it soon, in a couple months.
Just don't.
Just don't.
I have to. I put it on the show, and I really want to start that series on the show because I don't remember it.
That game has not aged well, only because like I never noticed. Like it's one of the things where you play the later games and then you go back to the first one and you're like, wow, it feels like my controller has been dipped in molasses.
Oh, I never played past 2.
That's how I feel about 2. It's like so slow and somehow button mashy and slow at the same time.
And I haven't played 2 since 2006 or 7. So it when I go back to 1, it's going to be like, I have no idea. I'm not going to have any like, like, oh, this got better. Like, I don't know it got any better because I never played it. I skipped them all.
It's okay. I had a friend who, when 3 was coming out, they decided to go back and replay the other ones. And the only thing I remember is bringing it up because I remember very specifically. I was sitting there watching them play it, and it was the Tarzan level. And the Tarzan level, to fight the boss of that area, you have to go to like a weird bamboo forest, but the boss won't activate unless you enter from a certain door. It's really weird, and I don't know.
Is that in 1 or 2?
It's in 1. Yeah.
Let's say there's a Tarzan level in Kingdom Hearts 2 that is where I quit the game.
There's no Tarzan level in 2.
Kept falling off of the trees. You had to like do this platforming up high in the canopy of the jungle, and I kept falling off. And I was like, I'm done.
No, that's 1. There's no Tarzan level in 2.
Okay, it is 1. Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
That's 1. I thought it was 2 that I had. Maybe
when I first did that Tarzan level, I jumped like onto each vine without using the auto jump or however you're supposed to do it, and had to like time it, and it was terrible.
Oh, okay, that's it. I have Kingdom Hearts 1. I thought I had 2. Never mind.
There's a game that I have to mention that I actually pre-ordered, and anyone who listens to the show a lot knows I don't, even when I was younger, I pre-ordered nothing. I was so excited for this game, Robotech Battle Cry.
What?
And this is one of the worst purchases I have had. I love this game, but it was so fucking hard. Like when we did it for the show, I literally had to put cheats in that the game gives you. It has button cheats you can put in the game, and I still would lose. And I had infinite health. I killed enemies in 1 hit, and I would still die.
How?
Because you have to protect stuff all the time. I don't remember how many missions it is, but a majority of the missions, at least they feel like that, all you're doing is protecting something. And it is just it's a miserable game when it shouldn't be. Like, it looks cool. It still looks good because they shell shaded it, so it actually looks really good to this day. But yeah, no, I remember having terrible time. It's actually one of the games that broke Mike on the show, my old co-host, because when he was doing it when he was doing it with me, he got so mad at this game, he just like was ready to break his controller and be done with it. He hated this game.
Oh man, that's so weird.
It's really challenging, and it's just like stupid 2000, what I consider 2002 challenging, where it's just like there was one part where I literally had to like go an exact certain path or you wouldn't make it in time, and there was no timer. It just wanted you to go the exact path in like this maze area, or like the game just failed automatically. This had a lot of dumb things. Had bosses with way too much health, which is a 2002 thing.
Yeah,
which we're gonna get there. But like you just do so much damage. It just takes so long to get through anything. Things have just way too much health for no reason.
I feel like there's a weird. It's one of the things where it came from the 90s with Super Nintendo games, very specifically Super Nintendo games. And there's like this really weird like okay guys, we can't have people beat our game in less than 10 hours, maybe 20 hours. Otherwise, they're gonna feel like they didn't pay enough for it.
Oh yeah, that was a thing.
Yeah,
that was definitely a thing. It's still
less.
Yeah, thankfully.
I mean, plus this is a time where games really only had the $50 price tag. There was no there weren't really $20 games that came out. I mean, there were sometimes, but not like today.
Like GameStop and Funko Land and Babbage's were like, and used game shops were like more prolific. They were around at this time. But also, like, the rental market existed in a way that's been decimated by now.
Rental was still a thing.
Oh yeah, that's true too. Yeah,
I rented a lot of stuff into like 2004, 2005.
Yeah, this was the year that my Blockbuster at least offered a $20 and have one game out at a time deal. So I bought my GameCube and then rented every single GameCube game that summer. I would just play them for half a day and then just bring them back. I'd rent multiple games throughout the day. I played every game they had that day. I played like Jeremy McGrath's Supercross, just bullshit.
Yeah, that was how I rented. That was how I played a lot of GameCube games, because I was looking back and my GameCube library, I've only got like maybe 15 games total, but I played like a lot of stuff because I would rent. It was just I miss being able to do that. I mean, I guess you still can kind of, but I guess
it's kind of weird though because so many PS4 games are like $5 anyways. So you're like, well, it's the cost of a rental.
Yeah, that's true.
If you're patient.
True.
Oh, and Vincent, I never played this, but I'm curious if you ever heard of it, because you like weird games that are weird license. You ever heard of the Zone of Enders Fist of Mars game for Game Boy Advance?
No, I haven't actually. I'm surprised I never played that, because Zoe came out, didn't have the Metal Gear Solid 2 demo on it for the PS2.
Yeah.
I never played any of those Konami adaptations, although those are kind of like in my wheelhouse. No, I never played that.
It's a strategy RPG.
Okay, then why didn't I play that?
I think it's a strategy RPG. Is that? I'm questioning myself now. I'm trying to look and see. Yeah, it's strategy RPG with some weird stuff, but yeah.
I should have played that. Let me put that on the list.
It seems like something right up your alley.
Absolutely.
I literally only heard of Zone of the Enders in the context of Metal Gear Solid.
Right, and that's why it sold so well. And then they made a sequel and nobody bought it because it didn't have
Okay, no, I lied. It's not a strategy RPG, but it looks like a strategy with a grid game, and you fight. But when you go into a battle, you have a little cursor. You have to like hover over the enemy and hit them. I don't know. It looks really weird, but look it up right now. I'm just looking at it. But yeah, it seems like something right up your alley.
I like Zone of the Enders.
I do too. I like the first one and the second one.
It's they're very Evangelion-esque. So
was Metal Gear? Oh, Metal Gear also came out this year.
Did it?
Metal Gear Solid 2. Sorry.
No, that would have been Follow 1. I want to say, because it
was Subsistence or Substance. Yeah. It was the.
Oh, United Kingdom. It came out though.
Yeah.
I would say the Metal Gear Solid 2. The
special edition of whatever
Sons of the Patriots was 2001.
Oh yeah,
and then this is like Metal Gear Solid 2 Substance, I think, is 2002.
Substance was something else though,
which I don't know. What did Substance add to it?
It's probably VR missions, if I recall correctly.
Yes, VR missions. It's a skateboard dumb thing.
Oh right.
Is that the one that adds the Ape Escape mini mode, or is that the?
That's 3. That's Subsistence.
That's Subsistence, yeah. And of course I have Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Patriots, and then I have Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. I don't have these like special extra editions. Versions with the special stuff on them.
The VR missions are fun, but they're hell trying to get through them. Oh, and this is another game I wonder if any of you guys have played, but I played a bunch of it in 2002, 2003 because a buddy of mine had it, even though I don't think it's a good game, and I really want to go back to it. Well, Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers. For PlayStation 2
I was thinking Fellowship was 2002, but yeah,
it is too.
Yeah,
they both are.
Those GameCube. I mean, I don't know if I guess they're on every system, but the GameCube Lord of the Rings games, I remember renting Fellowship and liking it.
Because Fellowship was somebody different, right? Because EA was only able to get out games for Two Towers and Return of the King, and somebody else had Fellowship and Hobbit. I want to even say was around this time too.
Yes.
Oh.
Were those Vivendi or something?
I never played the
Vivendi,
Fellowship one.
I think so, yeah.
But Two Towers, I remember it being a lot of fun, even though I don't think it's probably good anymore. But I really enjoy it. It's just a hack and slash game where you run through different levels, and I remember it's kind of challenging, but you get to play as Aragorn, Legolas, or Gimli, and it was just a really cool little game for some reason. I never played Return of the King because I was done with it at the time, and I was also pissed off that I borrowed my friend money to go buy Return of the King, and it took him like a long ass time to pay me back. I remember being irritated. So I also never liked Return of the King.
Yeah.
Because he was like, he had the money to pay me back. He's like, I was going to pay you back, but then I bought Doom 3. And I'm like, but why don't you just pay me back the $20?
Oh, Doom 3, what an awful choice.
I like Doom 3. I haven't played it in years, though, but I remember it's a game that I've been trying to get on the show for a while. But yeah, no. So yeah, Fellowship of the Ring, he is right, it is Vivendi, but I don't know.
And then it's EA. EA did Two Towers and Return of the King. Yeah. So they're different. So, and it was, I think Fellowship might have been 2001, actually.
It says Wikipedia says that it was 2002, like a month before the Two Towers game would have come out.
That's funny.
They must have not. When did the movie come out?
01, 02, 03.
Yeah.
Huh.
I remember specifically the date that I took to see Fellowship the night it came out. So yeah, December 2001.
I'm surprised they were that late with making the game then, but I guess that was a different time. So
well, I don't think they knew that it was going to be big. Also,
yeah, I think the Fellowship people like expected it to be a flop. Yeah. A lot of people did, and it was not, obviously.
It's no Lord of the Rings Volumes 1 RPG for the Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
I never played. Is The Hobbit this year also?
It might be. That Hobbit game looked like garbage from the cover. I never
played it either. But I always remember it.
Wikipedia is saying Vivendi did The Hobbit in 2003.
They did it afterwards. Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm not that surprised. Are you?
But speaking of fantasy games that got ported, that had games, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets was the final Game Boy Color game in 2002. It is a turn-based RPG, and it's supposed to be pretty good, actually. A lot of the Game Boy Harry Potters are turn-based RPGs. I only have Prisoner of Azkaban GP.
I have a memory.
Interesting.
Of Chamber of Secrets. My buddy who had a Game Boy Color brought it with him to school, and we're in high school, and he had Chamber of Secrets, and he played it. He didn't like it. He didn't like Harry Potter, but he had nothing else to do. So he played it nonstop at school when he could. And I remember it being a turn-based, and I remember him beating it. I always want to play it, though. I've always been interested to go back and play that game.
Yeah. I would be, too. It's interesting because I was a huge Harry Potter fan at this point in my life, like going to the midnight releases of the books and the midnight releases of the movies. Like, I mean, not dressing up, but the rest of it. And but I've never played 1 second of a Harry Potter video game. Not a single one.
I've always wanted to do a video to show how they change, because like they start as like 3D platformers, and I think the final one is like a Gears of War clone. Like,
what?
Yeah, he's right.
Deathly Hallows 2 is like a Gears of War clone with wands.
I own it.
Like over the shoulder, third person shooter kind of thing.
That sounds cool.
Yeah, I want to play that. I remember hearing about that and being like, oh, that sounds amazing.
I would
honestly play more Harry Potter games if they were all like turn-based RPG.
Like, the Game Boy ones are. All the Game Boy ones are.
I had no idea that it was like that. I want to try. I want to play that now.
Yeah, it looks. I mean, I have always been interested in it because of my friend playing it, but I have just never went back to it. I'm actually rewatching Chamber of Secrets right now. Yeah, that's a good movie. It's almost 3 hours long too.
Yeah,
we've watched the first 4 with our son this week, which I'm not. And we're now on the ones where I started tapering off as a Harry Potter fan. But yeah, like I like Chamber of Secrets 2, the movie. It just seems a little more confident and a little more focused, even if the story's not as good. But
and I was very much at that time. I was the first 2 movies are the only good movies because they're the ones true to the books. And now I'm the opposite, and I'm like, no, the first 2 movies are not good compared to the later ones. But
I like the first 2 a lot.
I really like the 3rd and the 5th one especially for like, but I hated the 3rd one when it came out. But
now the 3rd one was my favorite book, and the video game is the only one I have. And I mean, it's a GBA turn-based RPG party based with Harry, Ron, and Hermione. I mean, pick whatever your favorite book is and get the turn-based RPG.
I'm gonna check them all out now. I mean, I will gladly pirate anything from that franchise just to not give money to the author. So
oh yeah, totally.
Yeah,
but
plus
I'm gonna pirate that shit today.
Plus, when it comes to old stuff like this licensed stuff will never be re-released in any shape or form.
Oh, definitely not.
And that's
definitely not.
I'm also a big component. Like when there's something like this, like nobody's making money off this. No one's ever going to go through the trouble to relicense and sell it. Play it however you can. They don't. Whoever the creator was at this point, they're like, I'm just happy somebody's probably playing my game and enjoying it.
So y'all, to a little bit of a segue, you were saying this is the last Game Boy Color game was Harry Potter. So were y'all playing a lot of Game Boy at this point in time?
Yeah, I was. That was my beat on the my Nintendo site. Was the Game Boy.
That's awesome.
I was
awesome.
A poor kid. I could only afford a Game Boy. I didn't have any of the big name consoles. My Game Boy Advance was what kept me warm at night.
Well, again, old man story. So I was, as a kid, my parents would not shell out for a Game Boy, so I never had one as a kid. And then when I got my first job working at Target in 1999, what I bought with my very first paycheck was Pokemon Red and Blue and the strategy guide and a Game Boy Color. That was my first Target paycheck, was all that together. Except that Target didn't have Game Boy Colors. They only had Game Boy Pockets in stock.
Oh, weird.
So I went, they were just out. We were sold out is what it was. We sold them, but we were sold out and I was too impatient. So I went to Electronics Boutique and bought a Game Boy Color at Electronics Boutique. And I was still playing that Game Boy Color at this point in time. And then I think it's 2003 that I traded it in for an SP, toward an SP. But so but I'm trying to think of what I was even playing. I think I was just playing, like older games. So I don't remember playing any of these like newer game. Like I'm looking at some of the Game Boy Color games from around this time, and I don't remember playing any of them.
It's weird because Game Boy Advance was so short-lived. It came out like in June 01 and was replaced by the DS in November 04. So it had a 3.5-year lifespan. And the Game Boy Color was only around for 2.5 years before the GBA came out, like late 98 to June 01. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember Game Boy Color a lot, but maybe it's just because I played a lot during those couple of years.
It was late 08 or late 98. I'm sorry, to early to mid 01. Yeah, 2.5 years.
Yeah, it was a stopgap, and if you like look into the development of like what they were doing at the time, it was kind of a situation of that they were already working on the GBA and they weren't ready for it. Mm-hmm. So they put out the Game Boy Color as like a stopgap to kind of to just like shoot Neo Geo Pocket Color in the knee a little bit, I think.
Yeah. And capitalize on Pokemon.
Yeah, and
I don't think they were expecting Pokemon to take off the way it did.
Yeah,
probably not.
So one of the things which do y'all have siblings?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
Well, I have half siblings that I didn't grow up with, but that's it.
So I like I said, I grew up with my cousin. She's basically my sister. Favorite family member. So they bought. It's one of the things where it's at least nice with that because they're like, oh, the new Pokemon game's coming out, and she played Pokemon way before I have. And Ruby and Sapphire. Sapphire was my first Pokemon game, so I love that game. And of course, I had to get Sapphire because my cousin wanted a Ruby. It's like you want the game, you have to get the opposite one of your cousin. It's like okay. And then of course, it's always one of the things of her picking. Well, I'm picking Torchic. You have to pick something else, and I'm like, I'm not picking anything else. I'm getting Torchic too. I like fire Pokemon.
Yeah. That's how my son is. I'm like he'll like pick the cool one, and I'm like, for the purposes of the Pokédex, I guess I have to pick a Pokemon I don't like. Like close to 40, and this is where I'm at. I'm like making my Pokemon decisions and ruining my game for some bullshit reasons. I should just get Torchic. Thank you.
Forget that. My son and I both picked Cyndaquil and Pokemon Arceus. So,
well, he's the only cool final evolution.
I mean, Cyndaquil is my favorite Pokemon. Period. So
that was definitely what I started with Silver. Yeah.
Yeah, but so I think we figured out right before the chat that Ruby and Sapphire in America came out in 2003. But I remember I didn't play a Pokemon game in between Red and Blue until I got a DS, and then I had a DS Lite, and I did not get any of the Pokemon games for DS. I got Pokemon Sapphire to play on my DS.
Oh, wow.
So that was my next Pokemon game was Sapphire. And of course now I'm a big time Pokemon fan and I've played all the games, but back then,
it's okay. Black and White were awful. No, don't worry about it.
I like Black and White. Okay. I haven't played Black and White 2. I've heard that Black and White 2 is actually really good.
Yeah. I like the principle of Black and White 1 because it basically gets rid of the entire Pokédex and starts with a new 150. And I like that concept. So you're not just catching Rattata and Pidgeys again. I like that idea.
But I got us a little off topic there. So.
We can go back to 2002, which was, speaking of Game Boy games and stuff, Mike, you hit upon my favorite game of 02, which was Tactics Ogre, The Knight of Lotus for Game Boy Advance.
What is that?
Okay, so...
strategy RPG. I know that.
Strategy RPG. Okay. It's in the style of Final Fantasy Tactics, although it's from the team who made Tactics Ogre and Ogre Battle before they made Final Fantasy Tactics.
I was going to say, Final Fantasy Tactics is in the style of Tactics Ogre.
Yes, exactly. But it also has permadeath, and this was a year before Fire Emblem came our way. So it's Final Fantasy Tactics with permadeath, and it's a lot of fun. And with branching paths in the story. So it was like my first story playthrough took like 50 hours, probably because it wasn't very good and like resetting the game.
Was it the first Tactics Ogre that we got in the US or no?
Yes and no. So my review from O2, I was reconsulting it, and there definitely was a PS1 version of Tactics Ogre that came out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
US, because Tactics Ogre is an old series, but we weren't getting them in the US for a while. I remember.
Right.
There's one Super Nintendo we got.
Did we get the Super Nintendo version? I know we got Ogre Battle Super Nintendo. I wasn't 2002 me wasn't sure.
We got something for Super Nintendo and something for 64.
That's Ogre
Battle,
Battle, which is different.
Yeah, and they all have like is it Ogre Battle or Tactics Ogre that have like the weird sub names?
The ones that are all queen quotes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let us cling together. Yes. I don't think the Knight of Lotus is a queen quote.
Man of a lordly caliber.
Yeah. Person of lordly caliber.
What in the hell?
Yeah, all the subtitles for this Japanese strategy series are Queen lyrics. Yeah, it's great. It's a perfect like Venn diagram of things I love. But Tactics Ogre was just like if you like Fire Emblem and you like Final Fantasy Tactics, it has the actual like elevations of tactics, but with the permadeath and the branching storylines and a much more focused story like your Fire Emblems. I don't think there's dating and waifus and stuff.
No, this is really just a GBA game or
GBA game. Yeah. It was really hard to find. I had to go to like an import store that just happened to have it because EB Games and Target were definitely not selling it. And it was just a lot of fun. It was my favorite game, and like it took up like a significant chunk. And I'm sure it's really hard to play now, but it's why I did not ever like Final Fantasy Tactics because I was a tactics.
Oh, wow. And see, Final Fantasy Tactics is one of my favorite games, but I haven't played the Tactics Ogre series. I've just read about them a lot. So
the PS1 really one is amazing because you can rewind back to certain moves.
So that's good.
No, the PSP game. I'm sorry, the PSP remake of the PS1 Super Nintendo game.
I can't remember which one that is.
2011. It's Let Us Cling Together, whatever special. You can buy it if you have a Vita, or I'm sure you could acquire it now. But.
Yeah, I mean, I have a PSP, a modded PSP, so I can definitely
check out that one. Tactics Ogre for PSP. It's really good.
Okay. Well, are we saving like our top games for like the end or anything, or are we just talking about things? Okay.
Well, we can. No, I just want to save like a big game to go out on, but I think I got. But yeah, it all depends on where we end up with at that point.
I would like to segue into something really dumb I just thought of, and then go into one of my favorite games. So we were backpedal just a little bit. We were talking about Harry Potter RPGs. I now need to go pitch that $1 million idea of a Persona Harry Potter game.
Ooh!
I'm sure someone would pay. I would pay to play all that. Every 7 games, Persona-esque, make friends, learn spells.
Yeah, that would be amazing. I mean, you could just maybe
Yeah, aside from giving rolling money, but yes, otherwise.
Let's do it with Earthsea instead. The thing she ripped off. There you go.
Side thing, but just the last Harry Potter thing I want to say is I was watching the anniversary thing that just came out for the 20-year anniversary. They have 2 interviews with her, but it says in there 2019. They're like very like we did not talk to her again.
Yeah, I mean, I think Daniel Radcliffe would probably not agree to be in it if she was like actively involved. So
I think 90% of them would.
Yeah. Well, all right. So I'll talk about one of my favorites that I didn't put in my top 3 though. One of my favorite video games of this era, Star Wars Jedi Knight 2 Jedi Outcast.
Yes.
That is
game.
Is that for PC, I'm assuming?
Yeah, it was for PC. It's been ported now to other systems. It's even on the Nintendo Switch, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I got the GameCube one for free for review.
Nice.
It was kind of rough, but
yeah, on the PC, I loved it, man. I beat that game over and over again. I played with after I beat it, I went in with the console commands and would spawn. I would just sometimes go to a big area in the game and just spawn a bunch of Sith and a bunch of Luke Skywalkers and watch them fight each other, or summon just a bunch of ATSTs and stormtroopers and have them fight each other, or Wampas or whatever. I love that game so much. It's basically, I think it's using the Quake 2 engine.
Okay.
Possibly.
I can see that.
And so it's got it's got that fast-paced shooter with verticality, but also lightsaber and force powers stuff. And it's really good if you played the other game. So it's the third Dark Forces game, right? So it's like
Dark Forces 3, Jedi Knight 2.
Yeah, it's Dark Forces 3, Jedi Knight 2, Jedi Outcast, right? Exactly. And it's a ton of fun. I really enjoyed it a lot. I like the story. Star Wars is my favorite thing. Like in like that's not my family. I'm very super into Star Wars, and it's one of my favorite Star Wars games. I had Dark Forces and Jedi Knight on PC, and they're fun. They're good, but I felt like this was the first one that felt like really accessible and playable to me. And I guess if that makes sense. Like Dark Forces is a Doom game, and it's got all the problems of a Doom game, of like a Doom 1 engine game.
Super easy to get lost. Everything.
Yeah, super easy to get lost. No verticality. I mean, there's verticality, but not really. It's not real verticality and all that. And then Jedi Knight is just super hard. And then Jedi Knight 2 though is just like it's a very beatable game. It's much more accessible to a wider audience, and it ties into story, and it's canon, or it was until Disney. And I was someone who was reading Star Wars books and comic books and all that kind of stuff. So I was really into it. I'm like reading books that star Kyle Katarn and all that, and it's just it was a lot of fun. I really loved that game. Good villains and like a good system for like force powers and light and dark side and all that stuff, but not as complicated as Jedi Knight had been. So it's a lot of fun. I love that.
I'll have to go back to that one. I definitely have it on the Switch.
It's on everything now. It's one that
that the Switch port is really good.
It's one of my early pirating games that I went and had to go to like cracks. Which I'm pretty sure doesn't exist anymore. Don't go to that website. But that's how I did it, and it was so long ago, and I remember having to go through all that trouble just to play it, and I got to a boss fight and I couldn't do it, and I just never went back to that game yet. But I always want to replay it because it was so cool. I own it now on PC, but one day.
And if you're a Star Wars fan, 2002 was full of Star Wars games. A lot of Episode 2 games. But Kerry, did you play any other ones? I know you were on the Bounty Hunter episode.
Oh yeah.
That game is
Star Wars Bounty Hunter. I was the person on the episode that liked it.
I got that for review, and then I actually got 2 copies for it. So I ended up giving it to like a girl I was into's brother for Christmas. But it's an okay game. I love Racer Revenge though, as far as Star Wars 2002 games. Racer Revenge, the sequel to Episode 1 Racer. It's one of my favorites. It's only like 8 courses, but man, it's just like a lot of fun to play nowadays.
Yeah, Episode 1 Racer, I played, I rented a few times for N64, right? Yeah, but I hadn't played, and I own it now, but I hadn't played Racer Revenge, but I remember seeing it. Yeah.
I've never played it.
It's got Hayden Christensen, and like he goes, it's instead of Jake Lloyd, but it's just more Episode 1 Racer, and they don't make F-Zero games now, so it's a lot of fun. It's only like 8 courses. Anakin talks to Jabba the Hutt. It's weird, but it's on my That Was a Game channel. It's a fun game. I liked it a lot.
That's cool.
Okay.
It's also like $10 on PS4, I think. You can buy it. Yeah, so check it out.
There's a few other like huge games that aren't like maybe on the very top of my list, but another big one. I was primarily Nintendo and PC gaming. And well, really up until I got a PS5 this year. And other than that, I've been primarily those two my whole life. But Warcraft 3 came out in 2002.
This was also a game that I definitely had as my desktop because there were super high res photos. Like, can anything ever look more real? And that I remember the hype cycle for this was like, honestly, back in like 98, 99. Like, this game was a long time coming.
So I was like, I was in the 8th grade and got super into Warcraft 2. And then StarCraft in 9th grade, and I was just hardcore StarCraft, and then Diablo 2 in 11th grade, and I was just hardcore, and I was just like anything Blizzard put out, I was there for pre-order, midnight release if they did it day one, and so Warcraft 3, that was my jam. And the thing is, I love Warcraft 2. I love StarCraft. I suck balls at those games, but I kicked ass like crazy in Warcraft 3. It clicked for me. My friend who was super good at StarCraft would be like, no, see, that's the problem, is this game's just not real strategy. It's all about the heroes. And I'm like, yeah, cool.
That's absolutely not wrong. It was because I also like sucked at like StarCraft and Warcraft, but I was all in the base building, and then like all the base building episodes. I haven't played much Warcraft 3, but all the base building
versus the micromanagement is.
Yeah, I hate the base building now. Like I played StarCraft 2, and I was like, was like, no, just give me my little crew like we talked about in Advance Wars. Give me my crew and I'll go and wreck everything. And like having that hero character in Warcraft 3.
Oh man.
And there's like 5 factions, right?
Master, like my favorite strat, Goblin Blade. Well, my first favorite strat, Goblin Blade Master, prioritize his like invisibility ability and just run in and just kill people's peons so they can't mine.
Nice.
And just do that and just keep them from being able to make resources while you're just slowly building up your army and then steamroll them. And people would get so mad, rage quit, and I loved it. I was mean in Warcraft 3 with that.
I can't play anything competitive though.
Yeah, Warcraft 3 and my roommate in the fall of 2002, I got him into it, and he was an older guy. He looked like he was like 40. He was bald, and he was a engineering grad student, and kind of a hothead. But he and I got along well. But I got him into Warcraft 3, but he sucked at it, and so what he got really into was making custom maps, where you have just like. He would like create like weapons like the plutonium fist and stuff like that would just make him a god. And then he would make us like a bunch of us in the dorm play with him on these maps where we're all co-op against a computer that can't possibly beat us. And I'm like, yeah, this is cool, dude. Whatever. But yeah, Warcraft 3, that was my jam. And people, I mean, you can't overstate how important it is because, you know, a custom map, so, you know, the really big popular custom map that came out for Warcraft 3 was called Defense of the Ancients or Dota. And so you don't have Dota, Dota 2, League of Legends. I mean, League of Legends is one of the biggest video game franchises in the world still. And it would not exist.
As a Netflix series.
Yeah, freaking Netflix series. That's really good. I mean, Heroes of the Storm, of course. But I mean, you don't have this entire genre of video games that has made who knows how many billions of dollars that, you know, I mean, basically really put, you know, other than fighting games, it's what put esports back in people's like, you know, front and center. And you don't have any of that about Warcraft 3. It's just, it's so incredible. And it was such a beautiful game. Like you were saying, it had, you know, unlike Warcraft 2 and StarCraft, you could like mouse wheel zoom in real close and see your
because it's actually 3D as opposed to sprite.
Yeah, so it's actually 3D instead of sprite based, and it's a beautiful game. And then of course Frozen Throne is just like a really great expansion for it, but that's 2003. But
making me want to go play this again.
I really want to play Warcraft 3 one day.
Really good game. I love Warcraft 3. I heard the remake was really bad that came out, so I didn't jump on that. But
and you can't buy the original version in any shape or form anymore now. No, they got rid of it completely.
I still have like I have a binder of gaming CDs on my bookshelf behind me right now, and the first game in the binder is Warcraft 3.
I mean, you can still get it. Just
it's right there. Buy it. I have Warcraft. It's like I got Warcraft 3, Frozen Throne, StarCraft 1, Brood War is the first page of CDs right now.
Oh, Joe, do you have any games you want to mention still? We haven't covered yet.
There is one game that is very near and dear to my heart, and I love the series. And this is a very fresh coat of paint and a very weird sequel. Because I was, as I said a little bit earlier, I grew up only having a Game Boy pretty much up until I was an adult because it was a cheaper system. You know, I live with my grandparents, so it's like, what's cheaper? A Game Boy that's like like $200 or PS3 that's like $500. So.
It wouldn't have been PS3 at this time.
$699 US.
Jesus Christ, those are a lot.
$700 at launch.
Oh my God.
Just take a second job and then have no time to play your PS3.
Yeah, I remember when the PS3 came out, I was like, yeah, that's not happening.
But Mega Man Zero came out.
Oh, yeah.
February. And that, as the kids these days say, is the Dark Souls of Mega Man games. Because I remember that game. Actually, I played on Switch recently without cheats. That game is hard as hell.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of the things for me playing it, I'm like, how did I play this at like 10 years old?
You didn't have anything else.
I guess, yeah. You know, you'd figure out the moves and you have to sit there and you die it 17 times. You learn, okay, so now I know what to do. But yeah, I love the Mega Man Zero series. It's so edgy, like, and really cool. It took me years later to find out it's a canon sequel to the Mega Man X series, which is weird.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's the same Zero in a different body or something.
It's a
Zero
different.
died like in every X game, I swear.
Yeah, he does.
Kept rebuilding him.
Yeah, I think that's one of the weird twists for later on in the series. I think they tease that at the end of the game too. Is you're not the original Zero because there's like a big tube with the other Zero in it.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Is that Zero Metroidvania like, or did that come in later in the series?
I think it's just a regular Mega Man game.
Yeah, no, it's the ZX one might be Metroidvania type. I'm not sure. Zero definitely isn't. Zero's a Mega Man game. Just
I bought them a few times. I bought the collection on DS and I bought it again on Switch, and then I played like the first few levels. I'm like, this is too hard for me.
But you support them. That's what matters.
Yeah. The Switch version has they like hacked save points, so like if you won't lose lives and you can go back and die as many times as you need to, which is how I beat one recently because that game is hard as hell. Yeah. But the other thing, which is a fun segue from going to games, is the other reason why, because I love Mega Man Zero so much. Such a good game. Such good music too. The music in that game is amazing. The ads for like these day and age, where they're basically like, you think this game's hard? Fuck you. And it's like all the Game Informer games, stuff like that. I was just thinking about that too when I was talking about Mega Man Zero.
Yeah.
On a game that I want to mention that I don't know if any of you have played, that I was so like I had it. I remember getting it for Christmas from my uncle. I still have yet to beat it, and this came out in 2002. Suikoden 3.
Yeah. I have 1 and 2. I've never played 3.
That's not a bad thing. I loved 1 and 2. I own 1. I beat 1. I kick myself. I had a chance to buy 2 in a used store for like $30, and I'm like, nah, I don't want to spend that. For those that don't know, that game I think is over $200 now.
Yeah, it's a pricey game. It's one of the pricier ones.
I bought the Japanese disc just because I like to own the things I pirate, and then I pirated the English.
I lied. Sorry, not over. It's over
like $5 each.
$350.
Yeah, it's a pricey one. I think it was higher at one point until it started showing up on the PSN.
Yeah, it was the first PS1 game I ever emulated. I don't remember I don't even remember beating the game. I can't remember if I did or not. I think I did, but I have no recollection of it at all. And then I got 3, and I played it, but I got completely stuck in 3 because for those that don't know, which is probably most people, Suikoden 3 isn't like a regular RPG. You have 3 different groups that you jump around in, but the game is more it has a lot of strategy to it, and I had a really hard time playing with it. I have yet to ever go back to it.
Does it still have the conceit of like building like this like base with like 100 people and all that?
I don't know. I never got that far because you have different chapters of different groups, and I never got all the way to the end. I think it does near the end because my friend did beat it, and it does tie into Suikoden 1. Spoiler for a game that came out 20 years ago. The main villain is Luke from Suikoden 1, but you don't know that.
Oh, okay. That's neat. I mean,
it doesn't hurt anything because if you play this game, it's still really cool. That doesn't really, but yeah, it's also the last game in the timeline too. For some reason, like 4 and 5 take place before it. I don't know why, but yeah, I've never been able to. I've always wanted to go back and play it, and I've never been able to. And I liked it, but I had such a hard time with it. I just could not figure it out. I don't know if it was much more strategy than I think that I was able to do back when I was like 14, 15. So
I remember.
I looked it up. Yes, there's 108 recruitable characers.
Okay, so just like normal Suikoden.
Yep. I remember I had a friend in high school who was like hyped for Suikoden 3, and I'd never heard of it because I was in the Nintendo ecosystem, Well, and he was like, "Oh my god!" He was telling me all about 1 and 2, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" I'm like, "I'd never heard of this." And he was so hyped for 3, and then like a week later, he was like super bummed out. So
it's not what people want. It wasn't what I wanted at all. I can say that.
But 1 and 2 are they look like Super Nintendo RPGs, right? Like
they're great.
They're not fancy like other PS1 RPGs.
There's more the depth of the content than the graphics.
Well, the thing with this one is that you have these 3 branching parties, and the 3 parties fight each other a couple times too because they're in different nations.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's just, and if I remember right, you don't have a lot of time to grind either. It's not a grindy type RPG, and also your parties are like in 2-pack. Like your team members are like a duel together. It's really weird. It's hard to explain. I don't remember it very well because I haven't played it probably since 2003 or 2004. But it came out that year, and it's one of those games where I someday am gonna make myself go back and play it and finish it one day. I keep telling myself that, but I do a podcast, so that's hard.
I'm gonna go super off topic, and the reason why the Suikoden games are so expensive is because there's a cult revolving around it, like an actual literal cult.
What? You're not kidding?
No, I'm not kidding. If you ever get a chance to go to YouTube, go watch Down the Rabbit Hole and listen to the Final Fantasy House. And
I heard of this.
Yeah,
and the Final Fantasy House thing.
Yeah, and there is it talks about it real quick. It basically talks about people that believe in soul bonding, that video games take place in different universes, and you could be the reincarnation of that character from that series. And towards the end, the person who was in charge of the Final Fantasy house moved on to Suikoden, and they talk about how this person went from being Hojo from Final Fantasy VII to one of the characters, and they would turn the game on into a living room and like play the music and like hover their hands over a character and be like, you are the reincarnation of the character you like, and it's ridiculous and awful.
Jesus.
Okay. And I can't find anything when I search Suikoden House cult, nothing comes up.
It's part of the Final Fantasy house timeline. So that's where it originally starts off as.
It's a real thing?
It was a real thing. I don't think people still do it, or they're been very much hiding. But getting back on topic, a game that came out this year because it was delayed due to awfulness is also Spider-Man, the movie, the game.
Oh, sorry.
The second one, right?
No, the first one.
This was the first movie. The Tobey Maguire movie came out in 2002.
Yeah, Spider-Man, the movie had to walk so that Spider-Man 2 could run. So
No.
But still.
Spider-Man 1 came out in 2001 because they had to cut content.
Yeah, it came out in the fall of 2001, the Tobey Maguire one. Yeah.
Yeah, they had to cut content for the game too because of the Twin Towers, and that's why the game came out like a whole year later.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, this was they were talking about this on I think 30/20/10 the other day.
And then another game that I want to talk about, I wanted to talk about, but we can't because someone's already doing it for the podcast.
Talk about it.
How's Star Fox, Mike?
Oh no, please. I mean, I'm gladly. This comes out a month later after Star Fox, so it's okay. Or more, depending on when I.
Yeah, let's hear
it. Yeah, how's Star Fox, Mike?
Oh well, one, people get really mad when you call Star Fox Adventure a Zelda clone. It is.
It is.
But people get really upset with you because I think people think when
who are these Star Fox Adventure stands?
Yeah, who is
there are. Wait till the episode comes out when I record it tomorrow. Not the time you'll be hearing it, but when I record it tomorrow, back in the past, you would be when I get the community part. Just wait. You'd be surprised. There are a lot of people who defend that game, and I like it. But God, is it stuck in 2002? Like, no,
that game is. I'm sorry, I think that game is garbage.
I'm enjoying it, but it's like it won't end. And I woke up today at 5:30 in the morning when my wife's alarm went off, and I thought about getting up, going downstairs, even though I went to bed at like midnight, just so I could beat Star Fox Adventure, so it was done and over with. I don't have to play it anymore.
I just remember, like, in my friend group for like 5 or 6 years, a recurring joke was just to like walk into a room and go, "Fox, baddies."
If you play the game on mute or with a podcast on, you don't ever hear that. Like,
that's no worse than like that's no worse than like, I'm monkey food if I don't leave, and that's a great game and we all love it.
What?
I'm monkey food if I don't leave. That's when you let Slippy die.
Oh, Star Fox 64.
Yeah.
Okay. No, Star Fox Adventure, it's tough, but yeah, it's a game that never ends, and there's no fast travel. So I've gotten lost at least for an hour.
I mean, that's you said it right there, that it's stuck in 2002. Like, there's no fast travel. Like, it's just it's pretty. I think, or it was pretty at the time.
It still is pretty.
I think it's
still a beautiful
game, and I personally was like down for the idea of a Star Fox gets out of his ship and does some stuff on the ground.
The thing about
not like this.
Yeah.
The thing about this year in 2002 is that boss fights would take way too long. Like, there's a boss fight in Star Fox Adventure where you're flying after this guy. I don't even remember what the hell you're on. You're on something, but you're flying after him, and you can just shoot your cannon constantly that you have. You're not in the R-Wing, but it is something about the control that just is miserable. And I must have hit that guy over 100 times before he dies. And I'm like, fuck you, 2002. Couldn't you just make it where you shoot the projectiles? Oh, you get a shot. Okay, you hit him. All right, let's do this 2 more times. That's it. But no, you hit him 100 times. It had to have been. I didn't look it up for sure. I didn't watch speedrun or listen to anybody tell me, but it was so many fucking hits. And I was like, fuck you, 2002. Fuck you.
I assume for the podcast episode, you'll get into the history of the game, like how it became what it is. Yeah, because that's pretty crazy stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize. Yeah, because this is also when Microsoft bought Rare, and I guess the purchase finalized the day after Star Fox Adventures came out. Adventures came out 23rd of September, 24th of September. Microsoft officially bought Rare.
That's
weird.
So a game that, to kind of segue, a game that does have fast travel is Morrowind. Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind came out in the summer of 2002. And this was, it's May for PC and June for Xbox. And this is my first time to ever even hear of Elder Scrolls. And I think that's probably the case for most people.
Right. I actually didn't hear about it until the lead up for Oblivion, and they were talking about how Morrowind was awesome. That was
So Morrowind is a game, I'll tell you, I went back and played it like 3 years ago, like after Skyrim had already been out for a while, with a lot of mods and with some good heavy modding. That game holds up really well. Like it is with the proper mods and stuff, it's what you want Skyrim to be. And Skyrim's an amazing game, but it's so complex and open-ended, and you can just do anything. You can break that game over your knee so easily if you know how to do it, but you can also just not do that. And you can just, there's so many things that are great about it. Like there's no quest markers, right? So when you meet someone who gives you a quest, they tell you, go down this river until you see a large gray rock formation. When you see the large gray rock formation, take a left and follow the ravine until you see a twisted, gnarled tree. Right behind that twisted, gnarled tree, there will be a cave. Go into the cave, and that's where you'll find your quest. It's that kind of thing. And that, it's just like, I get that doesn't appeal to everybody, but for me, that is just like, oh, they've made D&D into a video game in a way that D&D has never done. It is really, really good. It's amazing. And I didn't play it back then. That summer, I was at that same friend's house where we played the Resident Evil remake, and his cousin had let him borrow his Xbox, and it was his girlfriend's brother. Yeah, they were borrowing the Xbox, and he had a Morrowind, and I was just like, what on earth is this game? And then I got it years later with all the expansions, and I love Morrowind. I think it's probably hands down the best Elder Scrolls game. If you really are looking for something complex and interesting, and there's a reason why, like Skyrim, when you play Skyrim and you look at the mods, so many of the mods are about making it more like Morrowind, getting rid of the map markers and stuff like that. Cause that's like, one of my biggest, like Skyrim, I play no fast travel. Like that's my rule. No fast travel in Skyrim. No, I mod it to no quest markers and just play it like that, and it makes it more immersive. And Morrowind it's definitely like hard mode Skyrim, but it's a weird setting, right? Because it's where the Dunmer are from. So there's like big giant mushroom forest and all kinds of stuff like that. It's a really great game. And then, like I said, you can just break it so easily. I remember just figuring out like an infinite thing where I could just make potions that increase my intelligence, and then with increased intelligence, make potions that increase my intelligence more. And then just keep doing that until I'm making them where I'm basically infinite intelligence, and then do enchantments that I am like 50 levels too low for, but I can do while I have this potion on, and just completely, it's a lot of fun. And there's like a whole thing where like when you'll like go to sleep, sometimes assassins will try to kill you in your sleep, and it'll wake you up in the middle of your sleep and stuff. But if you can manage to kill the assassins, they drop really cool armor, and there's just so many side quests and factions, and it's a really good game.
Isn't Morrowind the weird one where like if you sleep outside, you'll wake up and you'll get a notification like, hey, guess what? You're a vampire now.
Yeah, that can happen in Morrowind. Yes. You gotta be careful.
I only have one memory of Morrowind, which I don't ever get to talk about, so I want to put it in here. Is a friend I met in high school introduced me to the game when I got a new PC. He showed me all the different armor. I went and got glass armor, got my whole glass armor set, looked cool, turned off the game, never played again. That's my only thing of Morrowind I got.
That's fair.
Yeah.
And, we should mention, because speaking 2002, I want to mention Ratchet Clank very quickly. Just that game is a good game, but it's full of 2002 bullshit, like an endless boss fight that never ends, and you just get angry. That's Ratchet Clank. Lots of other little problems.
I like Ratchet Clank a lot.
It's a good game. It's a good game. And then one RPG that I want to mention is Grandia 2. I played it years later when I bought it at EB Games for cheap, and I loved it. I know it's a remake of the Dreamcast or a re-release, but the PS2 version came out in 2002, and that game is really, really good RPG. It's the only Grandia game I have ever played and beaten.
I've never played one.
Yeah, I know
there's a few games
really like the battle mode for that.
And Super Mario Sunshine came out this year too.
Yeah, I was about to
Yes, it
say.
did.
I was gonna
Okay,
bring
you
that
guys
up.
are-
I was like, are we gonna get to Sunshine? I mean, it's bullshit, but it's also fun, but it's also bullshit.
It's the first Mario game I didn't buy. I got it years later, and I personally I like it a lot, but yeah, it's the first one I didn't buy.
I bought it, and on the day it came out, and it was the day of the first season of American Idol's finale. So I had to go play my GameCube in a different room. I had to go plug it in a different room, and I could hear like Kelly Clarkson beating Justin, whatever his name was, from Justin to Kelly. And I was listening to the American Idol finale as I was playing Super Mario Sunshine, which I think just has like the worst. And this is also in the era. And I was looking back at my old Nintendo reviews, like, why does this game not have voice acting? Why do all Nintendo games have to have text and not voice acting? And this is why. Because Bowser and Bowser Jr. have so many cutscenes, and it's just like insanely terrible. It starts with Mario having a courtroom scene. It's just like, this is why. This is why we don't have voice acting and cutscenes, because they're bad.
Yeah, it is definitely it's a conflicting game, right? Because it's got stuff like that, but then like the level design I think is really cool. The hub world, Delfino Plaza is like really cool design, and I like the use of the flood and being able to like hover with it and stuff like that was a really neat addition. But then it has stuff like that voice acting, or when you have to like chase your like shadow self around, and it's just it. I mean, I think the last when I played it recently, like I spent 30 minutes trying to catch my shadow in the beginning of the game because it's just it's annoying. It reminds me of trying to catch those rabbits in Odyssey. Only worse, way worse.
I have never played Super Mario Sunshine for very long at all. It's getting played this next season because I've just never played it. I started it, I bought it, I didn't like it, and I turned it off, never went back.
It's got interesting things, like the rocket boost thing is really cool. The levels where you lose your rocket pack are super interesting with the acapella, like Mario tunes behind it are so fun. They're like Proto Galaxy or like even Mario 3D World levels where you have to like go linearly to the end. They're so much fun.
Oh,
yeah, it is a fun game. I've never beaten it. I have the Japanese version in my workshop because I mod video game consoles and I use it as my test disc for Japanese GameCubes and for region switches. And so I'll play it in like a little like 10-minute snips when I'm testing things. But I've never beaten it. But I like it a lot. I think it holds up, and it's unfortunate that you can't get it on Switch right now.
Yeah, you can.
You can't buy it. Well, only retail. They took it off the digital eShop. So weird. It was like a 6 month.
Oh, you can still buy the physical in store
if you can find it at Walmart. It wasn't that
cheap. If you can find it, yeah.
Yeah, they're not manufacturing any more of it, but they're also not manufacturing like Hyrule Warriors. You just can't buy it digitally.
Yeah,
you shouldn't take away stuff digitally.
That's really stupid, and part of it's because they put 64 on the Switch Online service. I think is why.
I think
that's so dumb.
Why? Yeah.
So
that game sorry.
It's okay. One of the weird things, real quick, is that when that game, because it was a limited time release, if you had a Costco membership, Costco put it on clearance. So as soon as that date hit, you can go down to Costco and buy that game for $10.
Nice.
That'd been the right price for it.
I wish I.
That is the right price for it.
I mean,
y'all are lucky y'all didn't beat it.
I'm happy to play it on my GameCube, so I don't need the re-release, but still.
You're lucky you didn't beat it because the final battle is Bowser in a bathtub. That's what it's like. And he'll splash the bathtub too high, like my daughter does, and then get lava and water everywhere and get you all mad. Like that's the final boss battle.
Wait, I've never played Super Mario Sunshine. Is that really the final boss battle? Or are you?
Yeah, he's like in a lava bathtub and he splashes you. Yeah.
Oh my god.
And another game that came out this year, Grand Theft Auto Vice City.
Yeah.
Which I remember loving as a kid because I really liked 80s music at that time.
Yeah,
because I didn't like current music, so I was like, oh, 80s, way better than 70s, 60s, and I remember loving Vice City. I have not played it since then. I don't know.
I played on Switch.
The commercials for it at the time would play. I Run.
Mm-hmm.
And my roommate and I would just watch those commercials and like jam out to it. But I never got it until a couple of years ago. I just skipped it. I loved Grand Theft Auto 3. And then, I loved San Andreas, but I somehow skipped Vice City until, I don't think I've actually ever played it. I haven't.
Yeah. My friends played it. I also remember that Foxtrot had a whole like month-long of strips of the character trying to get his parents to let him buy GTA Nice City, is what they called it, to be distinctly different. But yeah, it's a fun game.
Joe, do you have any more games you want to mention?
Let me go through my big ass dumb list that I have here. I don't think that I do. The only thing I can mention, which I'll mention real quick, because it came out in Japan. We were talking about Kingdom Hearts earlier. Speaking also of pretty anime boy games, Dot Hack came out in June 2020.
I played those.
How many of those were there? There were a lot of Dot Hack games. I
There
feel
were
like
6
they came out
games.
like every 3 months.
Yeah, there were
4 in the set.
the first set.
Yeah, Dot Hack sign or Dot Hack something. There's 4 of them. They're worth a lot of money now, and I kicked myself that I threw away the third one because I didn't have the case. Yeah, I threw away just like a fucking idiot.
Yeah, that was literally one of those games where like you're a kid and you see like a pretty anime character and you're like, oh, what could this game be? And I remember me and my sister sat down and played it, and we're just like, we don't know how to play this because we're like 8. And that's basically my experience with that game.
Okay.
I've got one more that I played to death because it was one of like 4 GameCube games I owned for the longest time, and that was Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4. Came out in the fall of 2002.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And that was my first Tony Hawk game.
Oh wow!
It's actually my only Tony Hawk game until Pro Skater 1 and 2 Remake that came out a couple of years ago. I just played 4 to death. I loved the music. They had the Ace of Spades by Motorhead is still like one of my favorite songs I love to listen to. And Amoeba by, God, I can't even remember who does Amoeba, but I loved it. Amoeba was in that, but I thought it was saying Tony Hawk. And so forever I was like, Tony Hawk, Tony Hawk. And then the Amoeba is in SLC Punk when they're running from the fight with the rednecks. And I was like, wait a minute, the Tony Hawk song is in this? And yeah. And I, of course, embarrassing because I DJ'd a punk station, a punk show on my college radio station like a year after that. And I was like, oh, I'm dumb. But yeah, no, I love Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4. It's still my favorite Tony Hawk game that I've played. I've only played 3 of them, but it's my favorite of 1, 2, and 4, which I guess makes sense.
Yeah, I think some of that has to do with like whatever your first one or is likely your favorite. Because like I was tapped out of Tony Hawk because 3 was very similar to 1 and 2, and so I was like, I played this 3 times now. I'm not going to really bother with the rest of the series. So that's cool that like.
I also played the GBA Tony Hawk 3 that also came out this year, and I'm not a fan of the GBA Tony Hawk games.
I love them more than the other ones, actually, because I played them more. Tony Hawk 2. Tony Hawk 3 also is the last 64 game that came out in 2002, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Bye-bye 64, bye-bye GBC. They're both dead in 2002.
Oh, and Doc Hat Quarantine Part 4 is worth over $300 on eBay right now.
Jesus.
So yeah, that, since you mentioned that too.
Jeez.
And then the other hot mention, I never played it, which I'm surprised it's on here because it came out October 7th, 2002. Shout out to my husband's favorite game, Blinks the Time Sweeper.
Oh, yeah.
The Mario Killer for Xbox.
Yeah, I forgot.
How was that?
It's okay. It's pretty good. It's no Mario Killer, but my husband loves that game to death, and he always talks about it. And there's a really weird fandom of people who are like, you know, Xbox really needs to just make a full remaster of that game in this day and age. And I actually think if they did, it'd do really well. But yeah, it's a game.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the epitome of, you know, can we have Mario? Well, no, we have Mario at home.
Yeah.
Any other games?
I mean, there's some others I've played, but none
I've
that
got
I've
a ton. I've got
okay.
I've got some.
Last one for me will be very quick because I didn't even realize it existed until just now. Command and Conquer Renegade came out in 2002, which is a first-person Command and Conquer game.
Yeah, I remember seeing that in PC Gamer. That was
fun.
Super realistic too.
I never finished it. I really liked it, and I don't think there's any way to buy it anymore. So.
Yeah, I'm sure there's not. That was like the StarCraft Ghost before StarCraft Ghost, and it actually came out.
Yeah, it actually came out. Battlefield 1942 came out this year.
Oh,
also.
wow.
Yeah, and that was that roommate of mine that was like sucked at Warcraft 3, but wanted us to play it all the time. What got him off Warcraft 3 was Battlefield 1942, and he was obsessed with it. He was one of those types of guys who, you know, I'm a history professor, and we call them rivet counters, which are people who are super, super into history, but only military history, and get really bogged down in the, you know, advantages of the Tiger tank versus the Sherman and that kind of crap. And he's one of those guys and everything that entails. But he loved that game, and he would get super into it and try to get me to play it with him. And I was just like, if I'm gonna play a PC shooter, I'd rather play Counter-Strike right now. So I was all about the Counter-Strike at that time. But it's it's a good game though, I think, and it was innovative because it was so many people on the battlefield compared to anything you'd seen before, really.
Mm-hmm.
And the vehicle combat was like there's nothing like that. And I mean, I don't think there was any game that had the level of vehicle interaction that game had.
But Vincent, you said you had some games?
Yeah, I'll have some quick hitters. I wanted to make sure that we didn't miss some things. So, but a quick honorable mention is for Lilo and Stitch for the Game Boy Advance. It's Metal Slug with the Lilo and Stitch veneer.
Wow,
it's really good.
Yeah, I watched a video of somebody playing that and I'm talking about it.
Yeah, it's really good. Again, acquire it. No one's going to
You do introduce me to some of the strangest games I never would have thought of.
Yeah, that's why my show calls was that was a game, because it's like, yep, that certainly was a game. It exists.
I'm looking this up right now. This looks kind of cool, actually.
Yeah, it's got great animation. It's really, I mean, it's not the greatest game in the world, but it gets an honorable mention for me as like if you're looking for something Metal Sluggy. I did play Time Splitters 2 again last night. It's speaking of the rare defection, a lot of people from the GoldenEye team defected to Free Radical and made basically what is another GoldenEye. I mean, even like the health counter is like your watch with like the red and the blue half circles on the side when you get shot. You can be a monkey instead of Oddjob, and they're hard to hit. It's fun. It's a really robust multiplayer bot modes like from Perfect Dark. If you're looking for more of that, it's got the same like N64 kind of like mission level bullshit. And again, no quest markers, which I think Kerry you said you liked, but frustrated me last night. But it's on Xbox. It's now Xbox compatible, which it wasn't up until a few months ago. You had to like beat a bunch of like Homeland 2 to then unlock like the mod, a version of Time Splitters 2 inside of Homeland 2 with like some code. But now you can Homefront. Thank you. On the Xbox world, these are things that I never played, but I know people like Panzer Dragoon Orta, which I think is the last Panzer Dragoon game. It's kind of like Star Fox, big Saturn series.
They got a full remake recently.
Yeah, it did.
But it's not supposed to be good, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, that sucks.
I think. I could be wrong. I
think
just
the port had some issues. I think they gave some patches on the Switch version that made it like better. And I can't remember if Panzer Dragoon 2 came out yet. But and then the last thing I'll mention is a dumb game that I love that nobody cares about. And I know this because I put it on my YouTube series and it's got like 5 views. So no one cares. But it's Dragonslayer 3D, which is an update of Dragonslayer, the classic, Laserdisc game where you like click a button and then you have a cartoon with Don Bluth. But it's cell shaded. It came out like, I would say December of 2002, so like a few months before Wind Waker. It's all cell shaded. It's all like you go into a trap room and then you have to like get to the end. You die very quickly. It's full of bullshit deaths, but it reloads within like 5 seconds. It's a lot of fun if you're looking for like a weird 3D game with a lot of challenge. It's kind of bullshit and kind of janky. Dragonslayer 3D is my game. It's the last game made by Don. Well, actually, not the last game made by Don Bluth because he made iNinja, which I keep teasing every time I appear on here.
Yes, which we're doing.
But yeah, Dragonslayer 3D, one of my favorite games of all time that nobody cares about.
Kerry, any other games you want to mention?
No, I mean the Medal of Honor Allied Assault also came out. It was the PC. Is it the PC version?
Yeah, I think that only came out on PC.
Yeah,
there were other Medal.
It was a PC port of Medal of Honor with but it had the Normandy in the beach landing thing. Yeah. And I remember playing that and I didn't have it. I played it on a friend's computer. He's like, you've got to check this out. And it was really intense. It was very Saving Private Ryan. It felt like at the time anyway.
Yeah, because I remember because I played Medal of Honor 1 and 2 on PS1 at my friend's house. And I was like, this is all right, but like, who cares? And then like Allied Assault came out and I'm like, oh shit, like this looks great for the time. And it was like really like overwhelmingly cool. And I think it gets the same Battlefield vibes of like, there's a lot of things going on the screen.
Yeah.
And this should bring us to the last 2 games that we want to talk about for this. Metroid Prime and Metroid Fusion.
I was going to say, I got 2 more. They're just hot shoutouts though.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, sorry.
Say real fast? Then we'll go to Metroid.
Yeah, real quick. Jet Set Radio Future. My husband loves that game. If I have to listen to The Power of Love one more time in the car, I'm gonna rip my ears off because that game's on that song's on repeat constantly in our car.
What system was that on?
Xbox.
Oh, okay, yeah. I had Jet Set Radio on the Dreamcast, but I never played it.
Yeah, that was when all the cool Sega games after the death of the Dreamcast. And I bet the last official Dreamcast game is also O2, I would have to imagine. But Jet Set Radio Future and Panzer Dragoon Orta and a few other of those like Sega games that came to the Xbox. They got the cool games where we got Sonic on the GameCube. And And Choo Choo Rocket on Game Boy Advance, but that was the previous year.
Yeah. And the other one is a game that I need to play. And Mike, if you ever had an idea for the Halloween podcast, even though it's really weird, is Clock Tower 3.
What?
Where they take, December 12th, where they take the weird twist where it's a usual Clock Tower game, but then it reveals towards the middle of the game you are a descendant of a magical girl. Mm-hmm. So I've never gotten around to playing that. I need to, because when I heard that, I was like, that sounds ridiculously awesome and hilarious. I need to play this.
Yeah, it's one of those I want to play someday. So
yeah,
interesting.
I don't do spooky games at all anymore because I don't like spooky games, and all the people that like them are gone on the show.
I like spooky.
I'm not a spooky game person usually. This is the first one that's not a point and click.
Yeah, this was a very divergent from like the main games originally, and like I said, it was very hated because the story gets very, very weird. And I believe it's the last one in the entry series too.
We've done a Clock Tower game once. We did the SNES one a long ass time ago.
I can't believe there's a Clock Tower in O2. That blows my mind.
Kill the series.
Yeah, he's right, because Haunting Ground is kind of the semi-sequel to it with a different name.
Yeah.
Which I might play this Halloween, because I really need to play that game one day.
Dibs.
So, all right, and then the last game I do want to talk about, the last duel that I already mentioned, but Metroid Prime and Metroid Fusion came out the same day in 2002.
Yeah.
It's too much Metroid.
I don't like Fusion.
That was an interesting marketing idea, but I didn't have a GBA until a year later, so I didn't play Fusion at the time.
I am not a fan of Fusion.
I like it a lot.
Metroid is one of my favorite series of games. Fusion is one of I think it's probably my least favorite of the 2D Metroids, just because it's too linear. You know, like it's the least Metroidvania of all the Metroid games. Like even I'm a big Metroid fan, and I love every game in the series, including Metroid Fusion, but it's definitely my least favorite. Well, I say that. I'm not counting Metroid 1 because I consider Zero Mission to just be the better version of Metroid 1.
Yeah.
I mean, Metroid 1, I don't think is as good as Fusion just because of quality of life stuff. But
you're like awesome at like Dread. I saw like videos you posted, I think, right?
Oh, thank you. You talking about me?
Yeah,
not me.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I 100%ed Dread without a guide, which I was pretty proud of. I don't think I've ever 100%ed a game without a guide. Yeah, Metroid Dread is my favorite 2D Metroid. That or Super. Super is more nostalgic, I think. And Fusion's my least favorite. But Metroid Prime is probably like my third or fourth favorite Metroid game. I really love Metroid Prime.
I have actually never beaten Metroid Prime until last year when I played it for the show for the first time. And I mean, I played it before. Like I own a copy of it. I played it multiple times. I just could never finish it. I always something happened. Like I had a son. My son was bored, and I had to stop playing. It's so weird when a baby comes.
I got Metroid Prime the day it came out. I got it. I pre-ordered it, and I played it, and only got maybe 2 hours into it, and set it down, and just didn't come back to it for a couple of years.
You can't do that.
Came back, and I was like, "Well, I've got to start over." And I started over, got maybe 4 or 5 hours into it, set it down, and I did that like 6 or 7 times. I finally beat it in 2018 or 2019, playing it on PC with mouse and keyboard controls. Playing, I bought the Metroid Prime trilogy on Wii when it was like $15 at GameStop, which is now like a super expensive game.
Yes.
So I have that, and then I emulate Metroid Prime trilogy on PC with mouse and keyboard controls, and it's like butter. It's like it was designed for that. It's so good that way. It's pretty fun in VR also, but it's hard.
I almost played like that, but I just couldn't bring myself to want to make it work. But I'm gonna probably do that definitely for 3.
Well, if you decide to do it, let me know. I've got the settings written down. I've got what you have to set it to make it work correctly.
I have never played Metroid Prime 2 or 3, and I hate Wii games. Like I used to own a Wii.
I hate motion controls.
Yeah, so I can't play like that.
Changing the motion, the pointing of the Wiimote to a mouse is perfect for so many games.
Like there's a lot of games I want to replay for Wii, but like Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles My Life as a King is a DLC game, or not DLC.
You can get
download game now. It's for Wii UWare, or WiiWare. I really want to play it again, but I just haven't My
Life as a King, I'm pretty sure got ported to Steam.
Yeah, those are different. I think there's I think if I recall, my Life as a King is different.
Well, but yeah, Prime is a lot of and if you've got a VR headset, you can get Dolphin VR.
Ooh.
And Dolphin VR, there's settings. It's hard to get it working quite right, but Metroid Prime in VR is really cool. It's really cool. I just couldn't get it working correctly. so that the aiming was off, and it made it really difficult to play because of that. But it's really fun to like run around as Samus and be able to look around the headset and all that. But yeah, Metroid Prime was like Wind Waker. It was a interesting like kind of argument. It's like Metroid is supposed to be 2D. We're turning it into a first person shooter. That's not right. And it was such a great direction to take the game.
I remember like I thought that was weird back then, even as a kid, to be like, man, people had the complete opposite reaction to Metroid as they did to Zelda, where everyone was like super excited to see it in first person. And there were a couple people who were like first person, and why not third person, which I think would have been really weird to have like watch Samus run around in third person.
I think that might actually be like do like Metroid, but in kind of like Sekiro kind of engine. I think could be a really cool idea.
I'd play that.
Yeah, because platforming is 3D platforming is easier in third person than it is in first person, and that's kind of that is where the game does get a little frustrating sometimes. Is the platforming can be a little frustrating, like especially in the sunken ship. When you've got to go up to the top of this thing, and if you miss one jump and you just fall all the way to the bottom, and you're already moving slowly anyway because of the water, so it has. I think that in third person it would actually be kind of interesting.
That was my beef because I was like, because I came from the world of like Nintendo 64 first person like Turok jumping, and I'm like, this is not good. This is not good. I avoided the game. I'm like, this is not going to end well.
Yeah.
So I
think it's so good, and it really introduces a lot of like cool mechanics and some not cool mechanics. The scanning to get 100%, it's really frustrating. And when I beat it recently, I missed I think one scanning thing of a boss, and you miss that. It's just like, all right, well then there goes your 100% run. You're done.
Was there a few things you actually had to scan for progress? Because that's the thing that like frustrates me.
Progress, yes.
Because like if you scan just for like flavor and stuff, like that's fine. But like having to know like you have to scan everything just in case. Like that gets you through. Like that was kind of like a deal breaker for me. It's like,
yeah, there's only a few things though. It's like a few sections where like you're like, what can I do? And you start scanning, and you'll scan like a hidden switch, that kind of thing. Okay. There's nothing like, it's not quite like you have to scan to progress the game in terms of the collectible stuff. But it does get, if you're trying to 100% it, which I try to 100% every Metroid game. That's kind of like my thing. Metroid Prime is really frustrating because there's like in boss fights, you've got to scan every boss, which is not hard, but then there's like one boss, they shoot a projectile at you, and you've got to scan the projectile.
Oh, weird.
And that's the only place in the game that will ever show up, and you can't go back. So if you miss it that one time, that's it.
That's weird.
That was what happened. There's a couple of them like that, but it's, I love it. I love the different switching between the visors, and having like the different like visor visions and stuff. Though the X-ray vision is annoying looking. It's really hard to move around, but you've got to use it to fight the ghost. And having the different, like being able to switch in between the different cannons on the fly is really useful, because that's kind of thing like Super Metroid. You've got the different cannons, but you got to go into the pause screen and sit there and select which ones you want to be using. And most people just don't ever do that, but there's reasons to do it. But yeah, Metroid Prime, now you get to like quickly, seamlessly switch between the cannons and the visors. And I just love it. I love it.
One of the things that I think it was funny too back then, and it was bringing it back up because I remember it was X-Play on G4, what I would have how to do Easter eggs and stuff like that, was that you could do the wire from the GameCube to the Game Boy Advance, and if you had a copy of Metroid Fusion, you could unlock the Fusion suit in Prime.
Yeah, and you could also, I think, you could play, I think the original Metroid that way was in Metroid Prime, but I didn't have that. So yeah, I remember reading about that and thinking that sounded cool, but I was like, I'm not going to spend $200 on a Game Boy Advance right now.
Well, and it would load it on your Game Boy Advance, but like the Animal Crossing games, which did we forget Animal Crossing also?
We did forget.
Yes,
okay, cool.
Crossing.
All right, well, hey, Animal Crossing was a game. It's a lot better now. But you could download in Animal Crossing and in Metroid Prime, you could download NES games to your GBA, but they would just be loaded in, I guess, the RAM, and they weren't saved to anywhere. So if you were to just turn off the system, like that's it. The game is deleted, and you have to rehook it up to the GameCube to re-download it to your GBA. via the Kinect cable. Luckily, Metroid has passwords, so it's not that big of a deal.
Oh, okay. So my weird Metroid story of this though is, like I said earlier, my cousin's the one who got the GameCube and everything, and so whenever Metroid came out, I thought Metroid was cool looking. You know, you're 8-year-old boy in 2002. You see this really cool like robot looking person. You're like, that game looks cool. And you look over at your sibling who has the console. It's like, I don't like that. We're not gonna buy it. And it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I liked Fusion. I always like to think the suit for Fusion's cool, and I love that it technically carries on in Dread.
Yeah,
but
Dread is a direct sequel to Fusion. So
yeah, but I don't know. I can't remember why as a kid though. I always saw Fusion, and I was like, I want that game for my Game Boy. Just never bought it, and I don't know why. I can't remember why.
Yeah, Fusion is one that I finally went back and played and beat, a few years ago, and I like it a lot. It has things. It's still, like I said, it's my least favorite of the 2D Metroids, if you count the remakes and all that. But I still like it a lot. It's just, like I said, the linearity is the big problem. You can't really explore that much. You're just constantly being funneled, which is part of the story. It's like the storyline to an extent is that you're being funneled. That's the whole thing. It has really good boss fights. I felt like really challenging, hard boss fights that really challenge like your skills and stuff. I like that a lot. And then it has probably, of all the 2D Metroids other than, Dread, it has probably the best like mechanics in terms of just like the fluidity of movement and jumping and all that. I think, is it Fusion that introduced ledge grabs? Or is that?
I think so.
It's Zero. I think it's Fusion.
It's definitely in Zero Mission. I know.
I can't remember.
Oh, okay. Zero Mission came right after
yeah.
Fusion, right? It came 2003, I think. So yeah, I guess So it introduced the ledge grab, and yeah, it's pretty. It's very colorful.
It's got a lot more biomes than a typical Metroid game, which I really enjoy. Like, because it's all kind of fake. It's like, now we've fallen into the greenhouse area. I think we play the games for different reasons. I like the fact, because I'm not that good at these games and I get lost very easily, to be like, fall in this room. Like, there's only 4 rooms. There's something in here you're going to have to figure out. Like, there's no like, well, maybe I need to go like across the world to go figure out something to come back here. Like, and that's where like a lot of my like anxiety in early Metroid runs kind of fell apart. It's like, maybe I messed up somewhere else. So at least in Fusion, you're like, it's only one of these 4 rooms. I'm sure there's like some crack in the wall or something I have to do. And then that way it's a little more like a Zelda game for me.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I know one of the things that they always said too, which is funny because a lot of people were making fun of it in Dread, is a lot of people used to get worried that you would soft lock yourself because you accidentally went somewhere you weren't supposed to. But usually it's just, you need to do something weird.
Yeah. Like, I don't know if you can really soft lock yourself in any Metroid game.
Unless it's,
glitching maybe.
Glitching, yes.
Yeah, it's usually consistent if you trying to like do something you're not supposed to. It usually will get you soft locked.
Yeah, and we didn't mention the SAX, which is a neat addition. This like, it's very much the, what is it from?
Emmys.
Yeah, well, I was thinking
Nemesis.
Resident Evil, Nemesis. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
that Nemesis system of an unbeatable monster that can kill you in like 1 or 2 hits that you just have to run from, and it does add a sense of dread. No pun intended, to the game. And I liked it in Metroid Dread. My friend, who is a Metroid fan but not as big as me, he didn't like Dread because he didn't like the Emmys. He thought it was dumb, and I was like, that it interrupts the game, and it does interrupt the game, but I think it does it in a good way. And the SAX, same thing. It's like it's a well-timed interrupt, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It's also, it's kind of funny to think about. This is the farthest the Metroid storyline went in 2002 was Fusion, until just when we got Dread that we finally continued on.
Yeah, and so in terms of the timeline, yeah,
that nobody cares about, but yeah.
Keep your fingers crossed, boys. There's always Prime 4 might be at E3 this year.
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't even care.
Probably not. Probably right after E3, they'll do their own thing.
That's what they usually do.
Yeah, I'm excited for Prime 4. Because I think Prime. I haven't played Prime 3, but Prime 1 and 2 are both excellent games, and the fact that they stopped and started over at Prime 4 to me is a good sign, because they could have just put it out anyway, and instead they're like, no, we're going to make them do it. We're going to do it right and start all over. And that to me just is, it's like Breath of the Wild. We were waiting on Breath of the Wild for years and years and years and years. It was just like forever for Breath of the Wild. You kept saying, Breath of the Wild's going to come out this year. No, it's not. No, it's not. And then it comes out, and I personally think it's the best video game that's ever been made.
I really need to replay it.
I think Breath of the Wild.
What's wild is we've been waiting for Breath of the Wild 2 longer than we were waiting for Breath of the Wild 1.
Yeah,
that's
true.
I'm so excited for Breath of the Wild 2. Like, just mounds.
Yeah.
Are you guys ready to go to our top 3 of the year then? Since we don't have shelf or stack or box in this one. All right. And Joe, why don't you go first?
I'm gonna have to go in a very non-specific order. Sure. It's gonna have to be Kingdom Hearts, Mega Man Zero, and then Pokemon. With a Sapphire. I had Sapphire. Okay. With a very close, because I technically didn't play it because I was a kid, and you ask your parents to buy a horror game, and they would totally say no. Very close fourth is Resident Evil.
Okay.
Nice.
All right. What about you, Kerry?
My number 3, I put Warcraft 3. My number 2, Metroid Prime, and my number 1, Wind Waker.
Okay.
Oh yeah, Wind Waker.
And I was in a very, very close 4th place was Jedi Knight 2.
Oh, what about you, Vincent?
I'm going to go with, this is a crazy list because we didn't talk much about it. Ratchet & Clank 1 is my number 3. And then followed by Dragonslayer 3D because I love it and no one else does. And then Tactics Ogre, The Night of Lotus, my favorite game of 2002.
Okay. There you go.
With an honorable mention for the Wavebird controller, which we never mentioned.
Oh, yeah.
I had a Wavebird. I used to carry that thing with me to melee tournaments. Like I was like a sidearm.
So people love that controller.
Speaking of like legit good wireless controller, everything else was like bullshit, like IR sensors. This was good.
Speaking of controllers and speaking of regret, because I have a regret, I never bought the Steel. I played once the Steel Battalion controller, and Steel Battalion also came out 2002.
Oh, I forgot.
That's my number 4 if I had a 4, because I played it once or twice, and I'm like, I didn't have the right setup, but now when I look back, I'm like, if I would love to own that game with the pedals and the 40 freaking.
That'd be so much
buttons.
Bullshit in my closet though. Oh my god, I would love to have it though.
Yeah. My friend offered to sell it to me, and I'm like, I don't want to buy that. I'm like, and if I would have bought it back then, it wouldn't have lasted throughout all my moves that I had to do and live in small apartments. But now, like, I have a house and I'm like, man, I could set this up now. Like, I finally have the room, but yeah.
My favorite local comedian in my town, San Antonio, his name is Larry Garza. And he normally just does normal, really good stand-up. But there was a video game focus night, and he rattled off 5 minutes on Steel Battalion that killed for one person in the audience, and it was me. But it killed. And I was like, this guy, and he's older than me too. He's like mid-40s. And I'm like, this guy is rattling off 5 minutes on Steel Battalion. And I'm like, yes, this is perfect. Larry Garza. Great guy.
Wow. In my top 3 games, 3... What the fuck was it? I just had it.
Dragonslayer 3D, right?
No. Resident Evil Remake, because that game is amazing for GameCube. Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, and then Metroid Prime.
Nice.
Because I really love Metroid Prime. And I would be at miss because I just realized it was 2002. Darkened Sky, the Skittles game, also came out in 2002.
Shit.
Oh, yes. Yes.
So that's the game we're going to go on and talk about, Darkened Sky. I never played it. I own it. I have a copy next to me, and I had people I have met people who were like, you should cover that for the show, and I'm just like, but nobody will listen to it, and I have to play it.
The least listened to episode ever.
That has got way too sexy of a cover for a Skittles game.
You wouldn't know it's a Skittles game if and it's also 17 hours long.
It's Tucker Carlson's
the cover.
Like,
there's no Skittles on that cover, but
nobody wants to fuck the red Skittle anymore. It's not attractive.
She's not. You collect the Skittles, and the Skittles give you powers.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a 3D action platformer game.
What's it called?
Darkened Sky for GameCube.
Yeah.
I have never really played it because I at the time I'm like, I'm playing. Yeah, because you get Skittles and give you powers, and once I found out it was a Skittles game, I was done.
Sky with an E. E.
Oh,
and
wow.
Yeah, you would never have any idea that it's a Skittles game looking at the cover. You're right.
It must be one of those games where they're like, fuck, we need money.
Wikipedia says the gameplay was compared to Tomb Raider and Star Fox Adventures. So there you go, Mike.
Yeah, you fight orcs, but the only thing that Skittles is what powers all your spells and everything, and I think heals you. I don't really remember much, but it feels like a game where they had something else and they needed money, and this was the only way to fund the game and finish it was to make it to put Skittles.
Why was the magic system? It looks like you use skills as like what's it in Final Fantasy VII?
Materia.
That's what it looks like. What the fuck?
Yeah, it exists.
Why aren't Skittles mentioned on the cover or the box?
Because again, I don't think it was meant to be like. I mean, yes, there are licensed games that are based on candy, M&M's Racing, for example. But I feel like this is a game where it was only there because they needed money at the end or something. I don't know.
Okay. So here's what Wikipedia says. Okay, so 1, they couldn't get the M&M license. Too much. It's too expensive.
Oh my god.
They paid for this?
Yes. So then it started as the Skittles game, and then the M&M's games underperformed. So then they tried to disassociate themselves from Skittles, but the Skittles were already in the game, and they're like, "Well, just."
Wow, I thought it was okay. That's even dumber. I thought they needed money, so they paid to put them in there. They didn't pay.
It looks like they started. We're gonna make an M&M's game. Like we can't get M&M's. We're making a Skittles game. Okay.
It also came out on PC almost a year. That's also I never knew it was on. It was PC January and then GameCube in November.
I bet you can't buy it on Steam.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Oh,
published by Simon and Schuster. Oh my gosh, classic video game publisher, Simon and Schuster.
Yeah, it's not on Steam, by the way.
I have a really funny story. We'll talk about regrets. Do you remember how whenever Animal Crossing came out, it came with a bigger memory card?
Yep.
Yeah.
My cousin bought the game before that happened.
Oh no.
And we deleted everything off of her memory card, and there still wasn't room, including that we had the entire Smash Brothers.
No.
Yeah, and we spent when we found out, I was like, "Are we gonna spend the whole night re-getting all the Smash Brothers characters?" And she's like, "Yeah." So yeah. Because
it was I think because it was I don't even know what 59 blocks is. I'm sure y'all know more. But it was a super tiny memory card, and then I think the 256 came out in conjunction with the Wavebird and Eternal Darkness. I feel like I got all three of those at the same time.
Nice.
It was like I think that was like I need more storage, I need a mature game, and I need a wireless controller, and then I'll buy this GameCube. Oh, yeah, it was like 56, 59 out of the 59 blocks or something ridiculous like that.
It's a lot. Oh, and the last thing I forgot to say is that when I was doing my top 3, Sonic Adventure 2 would have been on there, except for the fact that I replayed it not that long ago, and I realized that young Mike didn't know any better. Older Mike was like, "Oh my God, what happened to one of my favorite games?"
There's a lot of people that spent too much time in that Chow Garden.
Oh, I did. I said it on the episode, but I played that game nonstop for an entire summer with one of my early girlfriends, and I loved Sonic Adventure 2. But when I went back to it, oh God, it does not hold up well.
I think the Completionist did an episode of that. It's a lot.
So Sonic Adventure 1 was the Dreamcast game, right? That was
Full-Star.
Yeah. So I remember I worked at Target when that came out. And I was the toy guy. That was like my beat for most of the time I worked at Target. And we had toys and electronics next to each other. And so I would often get left doing toys and electronics. And anytime it was not busy and I could get away with it, I would stand there at that Dreamcast kiosk and play Sonic Adventure. And that is the only Sonic game I've ever enjoyed, ever. I've played a bunch of them, and the only one I like is Sonic Adventure. And I went back and started playing it again recently, and yeah, it does not hold up even a little bit.
Okay.
I didn't think. I'm not a Sonic.
I think those Sonic games have great first levels, and then good.
Exactly. Great first level, and then
Sonic Unleashed is my favorite. Sonic Unleashed demo is my favorite Sonic game. It's only 5 minutes long. It gives me everything I want, and it's great.
That sounds perfect. Yeah.
All right, are you guys ready to? I think we should wrap this up because this has gone for 2 hours now.
All right,
but not 3, Mike. But not 3.
I won't let that happen.
All right, now we need to talk about.
And Kerry, where can people find you at?
Hey, I'm Kerooseta, Kerooscta on Twitch and other places too. Mainly on Twitch, I do video game console modding and repairs. And I play a lot of Dark Souls and do a few other things, but that's the main thing. So catch me there.
All right. What about you, Vince?
I host the Some of My Friends Read Comics podcast. We go through every other week a different monumental comic. Right now, we recently covered, we're going through Age of Apocalypse this year, and we recently probably covered Batman Dark Victory by the time this comes out in anticipation of the new Batman movie. I also host That Was a Game on YouTube. It's on the All My Friends Are Right Here network, where I look at, this year I'm looking at portable ports of big games, specifically like weird uses, including Donkey Kong Land and Mario and Sonic at the Winter Olympics for the DS, which is where it's got a story mode where where Bowser and Robotnik stole all the world's snow and the Vancouver Olympics can't happen. And you have to go catch the snow. You have to go get the snow back. That's the plot of the game.
Wow. That's dumb.
Okay.
That's really dumb. Okay. And you can find me if you are looking for old episodes, which there are plenty of them. We covered some of these games from 2002 that we talked about. I didn't say all the episode numbers because I did not want to look it all up, but it is there. So definitely go find it. You can, if you can't find all the episodes on Spotify, please use Podbean. Everything is on Podbean. If you want to support the show, we have a Patreon. Every month we do a different Patreon poll. For as little as $1, you can vote in that poll. You can alter some of the episodes that come out each month. So definitely go look at that and help us out. Keep the lights on. Please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and on YouTube. We are on YouTube with audio only, but if you like your podcast there, it's there for you. Only took me forever to do that finally. And I want to give a shout out to my awesome intro and outro, courtesy of Helena at Hell Hath Fear. You can follow her on TikTok. And want to give a shout out to my buddy Bill Tucker, who did the MCU movies with me, and we went through all that and still does it. It's on the show quite often. He started his own podcast, The Gamer Looks at Forward. Definitely go support him. It's a very good show. And I think that's everything I need to say. I want to thank you guys for coming along for this not 3-hour podcast this time.
You're welcome.
And doing this another year in gaming. There's going to be 2 a year. That's my goal from now on, but do 2 of these a year. So you'll get another one near the second half of the year at some point. So yeah, that's everything I need to say. We will see you guys all next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.